let's get this straight now. I never fucked anybody over in my life. Didn't have it coming. You got that? All I have in this world is my balls and my word, and I don't break them for no one. You want to go on with me? You say it. You don't? Then you make a move.
Hello and welcome once again to the Cine-Files, where this week we are continuing our deep dive into Brian De Palma's Scarface. My name is Steve Morris. I'm a filmmaker and directing instructor in Los Angeles, California.
Hello. Hi, my name is John Rocha. I'm a writer, producer, host, and voiceover artist here in San Diego, in a rainy San Diego, California. So if you hear raindrops and thunder, I apologize. But I'm excited, Steve, to be heading back down to Miami in the 1980s to go into part two of this, for me, incredible film and poignant film in my life.
I was trying to come up with a joke about how our supporters on Patreon and Apple Podcasts were helping us with the habits from this 1980s Coke-filled film, but I just felt that struck slightly the wrong tone. No, our supporters on Patreon and Apple Podcasts help us with Blu-rays and the research and all of the hard work that goes into making the Cine-Files happen. We could not make the show without you.
Absolutely. We totally appreciate you. And thanks everybody who's been leaving these wonderful and funny comments about part one of Scarface. And another way that you can support us here on the show, of course, is for those of you who listen to the show on the podcast and do have the non-ad-free version. When you hear our clients and the companies that support us on the show and you want to try out their products, one of the ways that you really help us out is to try out that product, use our code. So A, you get a discount, and B, these companies want to come back and keep supporting us here on the Cine-Files.
John, I got to tell you, I really feel like, I don't know, dancing, like going to a club. Like I need some good Latin music. I want to go out. Where are we going?
Where are we going? Let's jump into part two here. Where we left off was Frank, Tony, Omar, and Elvira heading off to the Babylon Club, and we cut to the Babylon Club, and this is, Steve, a Miami nightclub in all its 1980s glory, with the carpet on the ground, the full-length mirrors, the beautiful pastel colors all over the place. And we hear Debbie Harry's song Rush Rush playing as we see Manny once again quickly getting all up on a blonde on the dance floor. What are your thoughts as you look around this club, as you're presented with this club at this time? Is this bringing back memories of any club you went to?
I don't think I was ever quite at this particular kind of club, early 80s Miami, Coke-filled. No, haven't done it, but it definitely, it's so funny. I think there's this thing, and I think this movie captures it really well.
Yeah.
And it also captures it all going terribly, which is the idea we're going out for a night.
Yes.
We're going to, because the whole goal, I mean, where did we start? We started Tony's washing dishes, looking at the club across the street, saying, I want that.
Right.
And now that is where we are. This is where all the magic happens.
Yeah, we talked about last episode whether Frank is setting all of this up to lure Tony to be part of his crew. And I'm going to keep coming back to that as we go through this scene here, Steve, to get your thoughts. And I also think this is what we're about to experience when we describe. Brian De Palma as the director is so smart to take people who have had no exposure to this in 1983 into this world of Miami, into this Coke-filled nightclub. He brings it to life so that we're experiencing viscerally on the screen. We move, and I'm speaking of Brian De Palma, he moves the camera around this club. We see the Echeverria brothers waving to Frank, who is sitting with Tony now, and he's pointing out all the big wigs from the drug world in the club. And this is such a cliche we see in so many movies where the mentor is showing the mentee all the people that they need to be aware of. Frank points out a large man sitting by himself at a booth with two phones behind him as he does business.
You see that fat bastard that's Nacho Contreras? El Gordo. He's got more cash than anybody in this place. He's a real hustler. You know what a hustler is?
No, Frank, you tell me. What do you say, Hasa?
It's a Yiddish word for pig.
So Steve, A, he uses the word chasa, and which I'd never heard until this movie.
We talked about off mic, I think. I don't think we talked about it in the show, that my dad's first cousin married a Polish immigrant from Cuba because his family had escaped the Nazis and fled to Poland and then escaped Castro and fled to North Carolina. And so I think maybe this is what Frank's story is that he came from a Jewish family that came from Europe to Cuba, and now he's ended up in Miami.
He is starting down this path of teaching Tony who everybody is and giving him, once again, some more words of advice and wisdom here.
Lesson number 1. Don't underestimate the other guy's greed.
This is one of those scenes where it's not that I don't think it's a good scene. It's not that I don't think it's well done. I just don't buy this. Frank lavishing this amount of money on this guy at this moment, I don't feel like we're there. It just doesn't make sense to me.
It's moving
and in particular, the stuff with Elvira, whatever, the stuff with her is like, wow, there's a lot of stuff happening real quick that I don't quite buy.
So I think it works if you look at it in a way that he has done this numerous times for other people to get them to be foot soldiers for him. I think what he's presenting to Tony here is like this world that he could have, right? And what is it? It costs Frank nothing to buy him a couple of $500 suits. Who cares? Let him feel important, whatever. When I want him to kill people, he'll kill people, right? And remember, the Rebenga thing was a big deal for Frank. Frank's the one that made that happen, and there's a revenge factor. So I think there's an extra level here as well. But you're right. In terms of the speed of how quickly this is happening, you can absolutely criticize that, because why would he do this so quickly since he doesn't even know Tony, right? He's showing everything around him to it, and he's giving. But this idea of don't underestimate the other guy's greed, I think this is a really smart way that Oliver Stone has constructed this character too, Steve, because you want to like Frank, right? Loggia is such a great actor. He's so charming in what he does, so you can't help but like Frank. And in the end, Frank was actually giving good advice. Now, was he a snake and did he two-face Tony? Yes, but then again, Tony, as we're going to find out, did his own thing. So, but Frank is actually trying to give Tony some good advice in this whole situation. So it's fascinating. But then Elvira chimes in tiredly over her shoulder, like she's heard this a million times before, and says,
"Lesson number 2, don't get high on your own supply."
And Frank, it seems like the wind is taken out of his sails. But then he looks at Elvira and says,
Of course, not everybody follows the rules, huh?
So, Steve, you asked this, and I have this written down. You asked this in part 1. What is their relationship? So I want to know why this bothers you so much that a young woman would get wrapped up in the world of cocaine in the 1980s and find some kind of, I don't know, connection with a guy with a lot of money who can provide her a certain kind of lifestyle.
It's not that I have any objection to people getting involved in that kind of lifestyle. It's not that I have an objection to someone with a mob boss drug dealer. It's not that I have an objection. Don't understand why Frank might find her attractive. Elvira is very attractive. It's not. So all of those things are totally fine.
Right.
It's that she is so openly, miserably, angrily unhappy.
Yeah.
And it's like, what is going on here? And that the relationship doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
I don't understand her character. It's so far and it's so public and so obvious, her unhappiness. I mean, she's insulting this guy in front of his new guys.
Yeah.
Like, why is he tolerating this? Why, it's like, yes, she's absolutely a gorgeous person. I mean, I certainly see the attraction. It just seems weird to me.
Yeah, I kind of put it up to that thing that he likes her because she's, and some guys have that. Some guys like to be with women that are kind of sharp-witted or sharp-tongued.
Yeah.
And put them down a little bit. There's a weird, especially, I mean, we're not looking at normally healthy, mentally healthy people who are in this lifestyle. So, but I can certainly share your point of view on it. But also, there's not anything, in my opinion, remotely attractive about Frank necessarily. But clearly, he probably got her young, groomed her, manipulated her, and now she's finding these moments to kind of lash back out at him. And so we see that, but you're right to question why he would stick around with something like that.
We are going to do something big next month. We are running a string of mules from Colombia.
I mean, in 1983, I had no idea what that was. It wasn't until much, much later in life that I understood what drug mules were. And of course, for those who may not know, there are people they are hired to put bags of cocaine inside their orifices in order to avoid detection And there's a great film called Maria Full of Grace that explores that that lifestyle and what happened with that, which is still going on in our world, for God's sakes, which is sad. So Elvira is now bored, Steve. Or is this part of the con for Tony? Because she gets up to dance, asks Frank if he wants to dance. He does not. And then she, after looking at the dance floor, she turns to Tony.
How about you?
What? You want me to dance?
Yeah, sure. Go on, Tony. You dance. Go on.
So, Steve, do you think Elvira asked Omar to dance with her when Omar was being wooed by Frank to be part of his organization? Or is there something about Tony? Or is this all part of the deal that happens?
Again, this goes into this area of her character that doesn't quite make sense to me. The only thing that makes sense, I think, is what you just said, which is that Frank wants her to do this.
Yes.
That this is part of the seduction. Because there's nothing in Elvira that makes me see at this moment that she would ever want to dance with Tony. Like, that just doesn't, it doesn't make it. Well, and this is the weird, I don't really buy this Elvira-Tony relationship and the way it's established in the film. It just, it's like, it's like indicating a certain thing, but it's not really selling me on it. So I'm kind of the position that, yes, this is part of the setup that Frank wants to seduce Tony into this world.
Yeah, I kind of feel that, like, now looking back on it's older, as an older person, it feels like that's possibly what's happening here.
But this is why it doesn't make sense, though. This is why it doesn't make sense to me, because it's one more thing of him lavishing the suits, the champagne, the money, and now you're dangling your woman that you are publicly having conflicts with in front of this totally new unknown guy. There's some stuff going on I don't understand.
Can you go into more of why this isn't necessarily something that you're buying?
Well, I think so. The very, very rude Elvira, who is nothing but insulting and condescending and grumpy with Frank, that doesn't quite match with an Elvira who is doing Frank's bidding by dancing with Tony as part of this whole seduction. Like, those things don't quite fit together, And so then I kind of went down the weird rabbit hole of like, well, is Frank, because, being a mob boss that has his hot woman dance with the new guy, that is kind of weird. And so I'm like, wait, is Frank, it could be just trying to get the loyalty of Tony, but then I was kind of like, is he kind of into watching his hot wife dance with this peasant, that kind of thing? I don't know. But the problem, this is my problem with it, is it just doesn't ring true. It doesn't all fit together for me. Obviously, you never bumped on it whatsoever. So there you go.
Because it makes sense, because these are completely unhealthy people in criminals and in whacked out situations. And I think Frank thinks he's in so much power that it's no problem. And he and some men and some people, let's just say this, some people enjoy being in relationships where they get denigrated. Why isn't that what some really powerful men or women get into go see these sex workers who treat them like dog shit because they make all the decisions all the time and they don't want to make decisions anymore and they want to get stepped on or peed on or bondage. Like, from what I read, I don't know anything about this stuff, but like, that's the stuff. So I wonder if there's an element of that going on here, because she gets to be shitty, but then, like, later on he's still going to have sex with her and stuff. Like, so maybe this is like the exchange, because he's having this beautiful woman on his arm. He deals with her sarcasm and whatever, because Frank, like Tony is going to tell us in a little bit, is soft. Frank is soft. So the woman he gets with is going to mistreat him because instinctually she knows she can, and he's going to keep funding her lifestyle and do whatever. So she knows where the boundaries are, where the lines are with him that he can play. And look, when he shuts her down, when he says, like, some people don't always follow the rules, she doesn't clap back. She knows she's gone right to that line, and he's like kind of smacked her back from that line.
Right.
So they have a dysfunctional relationship for sure, Steve. I think it's fair to criticize that. But then again, it's your perspective, my perspective as we look at it. And I think that's what's great about looking at these kinds of things and when they work and when they don't. So answer the question, Steve. Do you think Elvira ever asked Omar to dance with her?
I think Elvira has danced with a lot of people. She's but because she's very unhappy, you know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
And Frank doesn't give her the attention or the life that she wants. And so, yes, I do. That wouldn't surprise me, I guess.
What do you think of him?
I think he's a fucking peasant.
But you get a guy like that on your side, it breaks his back for you.
You've been asking these questions why he's doing these things. Maybe Frank instinctually senses that Tony is someone that could help his business, be even on more solid ground, because as he's just shown, there's a number of competitors in the market who go to the same club, in essence, and kind of show where their statuses are at. But the idea of a peasant, this is a big thing in the Latino community. The word is campesino, is what you use. Campesino is what I grew up learning the word as from my parents. And it is a word to denigrate someone who is lesser than or less educated or from lower economic status, right? And so that is a thing. When he calls him a peasant, that is a thing in the Latino community for sure.
I think it stands out in a major way. And I think it says something too about Omar and Frank.
Yes.
Which is because we've already said that maybe Frank comes from European heritage that moved to Cuba. We've got it, 20 years before this, Cuba was run by Batista, this terrible dictatorship, totally run by the mob. And it was a lot of Westerners and a lot of the elite that were ruling it over the country of Cuba. And it is the peasants that overthrow those people.
Yes.
And Omar and Frank left Cuba.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a whole class thing here. And in particular, this is just, again, we started in our first part saying this is why thinking of any group, but in this case, Latinos as one thing doesn't make any fucking sense. Yeah. It's like, there is a whole class structure. There's indigenous people that are connected and they're disrespected in various different ways. They come from different, this is all really, really complicated.
Yeah. Again, that's why I think it's always funny when they try to go, Latinos should vote one way or another. No, it's like, why would they do this? And it's like, well, you don't understand. Latinos don't see themselves as slaves who were brought over to this country. And a lot of Latinos like to connect with the white majority and the white rich majority, especially because they want to work hard to achieve the things they do. But it's so ironic that they get denigrated and ridiculed and stereotyped as these lazy people who are sitting around, just kind of collecting checks from the government. And nothing could be further from the truth. And we're going to see that later on in the film when we get to Tony's mom, what she has to say about Tony and what he's doing.
My guess is if you could take a magic test which would rate the genetic level of laziness of every single human on the planet, you would find a perfectly even bell curve. You're going to find lazy people in every single group.
Exactly. It's such a false narrative all around. There are plenty of white kids sitting at home collecting government paychecks, playing video games, for God's sake. So please, on all sides of the political aisle. Yeah. Anyway, back to the movie. We then move to Tony and Elvira dancing to She's on Fire from singer Amy Holland, who had a quiet career, Steve, as a singer and songwriter, but she is the wife of Michael McDonald. And I thought,
really?
It's this fun little tidbit. She had a couple of European hits, didn't quite blow up, but she wrote a number of songs and things of that nature. And I was so surprised when I found out that she was the wife of Michael McDonald. And I think still is. Yeah.
Is any of her work playing on a DVD on a loop in the electronics store with the 40-year-old virgin? Because
no,
Michael McDonald's there a lot.
But we've done a 1-2 where he did McDonald and then his wife. How ironic. But we see Tony dancing terribly as Elvira dances without looking at him. Again, this is her thing, to kind of just like, she wants to do something and she knows the people she's got to do it with, and she wants to make as little effort as possible. But Tony's in another place. So Tony's a driven guy, Steve. He wants to know her last name. He wants to know where she's from.
Look, it doesn't really matter, all right?
I'm just trying to be friendly,
God, I have enough friends. I don't need another. Especially when I just got off a banana boat.
And this insults Tony. He stops, and now playtime is over. And Steve, we're going to see this happen more and more from this point forward in the movie. Tony getting offended by people looking at him in a certain way. We saw this with the immigration guards at the beginning of the film, and now here in this moment when she tries to denigrate him.
So I have a totally bizarre analogy that I'm going to throw at you, which is that a film that John and I were just recently discussing whether or not we would be doing these films, which is the Lord of the Rings films. And I remember I worked on the DVDs years ago. And one of the things they were talking about was all the attention they put into weapon and armor design. Now you're wondering where the hell is this going?
Yeah, I was going to say.
But one of the things is when they designed the armor for the Uruk-hai, one of the decisions they made was they're not armored in back because the Uruk-hai never retreat. They only need to be armored on their front because they're
Wow.
always going forward. That's
Wow.
Tony Montana. He has no reverse.
Yes.
He doesn't have anything that challenges him. He doesn't move around it. He doesn't, he doesn't cower. He doesn't strategize. He goes right at it. Anyone challenges him, he's like the Orkai, no armor in the back.
And I have to say, this must be one of the pillars of the appeal of Tony Montana in this movie.
Yes.
Why he still resonates with so many people, even in 2025, multiple generations, rap artists, singers, people in the inner city, things of that nature. Like Tony Montana resonates. And is it because, and do we instinctually as human beings gravitate to people who just pound forward and don't take a step back and don't retreat and don't think about what they're doing. They just go after the things that they want. And eventually people just give it to them. You see that, and that's whether that's good or not, it's of course a separate conversation for sure.
Hold on, man. You got the wrong guy here. I don't come off no banana boat, okay?
Aren't you part of the Cuban crime wave?
What you talking crazy for? I'm a political refugee here, okay? So take it easy. Don't talk crazy.
So, I didn't know you were so sensitive about your diplomatic status.
I think there's a quality where she keeps poking at Frank and wants a response. Like, I think that's part of why she's doing that. And I think there's some quality where she sees that she can get to Tony and that he's going to come back at her, and she likes it on some level,
Yes.
I think.
This is the first sample of what we're going to see in their relationship throughout the movie. And then it becomes toxic, of course, at the end, near the end of the movie, or their relationship. But they like to circle each other and jab.
Hey, coño, man, what is your problem, baby? You got a problem? You're good looking. You got a beautiful body, beautiful legs, a beautiful face, man. All these guys in love with you, man. Only you got a look in your eye like you haven't been fucked in a year.
Dude, talk about coming right at her. I mean, this is so aggressive. Like, you literally just met the most powerful drug dealer who's your boss, who's whining and dying you, and you are coming at his woman like this?
Well, because she called out and this is the thing about, and listen, this is the thing about, and I can only speak from my own experiences, this is the thing about Latino rage. Like, if you have a certain level of Latino rage, and as Steve has referred to, he has seen this happen with me, I don't give a fuck what position you're in or how powerful you are. I'm going to say what I need to say. And when she says the banana boat thing and then insults him, being insulted about his diplomatic status, shall I use psychological terms? When she doesn't hear his pain or his feelings about it, he gets upset. So he goes at her and jabs at her and goes you have been fucked in a year, which is really crossing the line massively, right, in this moment. So he's trying to get back level to power, because it's a power play between the both of them. She's condescending to him, which he doesn't mind dealing with because he's a very confident person. But when there's certain things that Tony gets sensitive about, and this is certainly something that he's sensitive about, and so he has no problem taking all the rails or the blinders off and going right at her with something personal, which is what he says. And this works, Steve, because she's pissed.
Hey, Jose. Who I when and how I fuck is none of your business, okay?
And just as Steve said here, they seem to enjoy kind of poking at each other.
Now you're talking to me, baby. That I like, okay? Keep it coming.
Don't call me baby. I'm not your baby.
Not yet, man. You gotta give me some time.
Maybe this is helping me make more sense of the thing that I didn't get before, which is I keep going back to more and more the reason she's so mean with Frank and cold and disrespectful to him is that she wants him to push back the way Tony is doing that now.
Yes.
And so even though they're saying terrible things to each other, this is actually the attraction.
This is flirting for the mentally fucked up. That's what I would say. The mentally unhealthy, this is flirting.
Even if I were blind, desperate, starved and begging for it on a desert island, you'd be the last thing I'd ever fuck.
Steve, do you believe her, or is this the end of the first round of flirting jousting?
It's funny, I'm rethinking this a little bit just as we're talking, because the feelings I had before about not really understanding this relationship led me to believe her when she said that he'd be the last thing that she'd fuck. But as I'm thinking about this now and reinterpreting this based on everything that you've just said, that it makes much more of, the lady doth protest too much, you know. Like that's what's going on here. You know what it is, John? You asked me, and I didn't answer what my experiences were in these areas. But we all know the answer. We just did the 40-year-old virgin. My experience is basically none. This is not how I relate to people, and so maybe that's part of why it didn't sink in for me in the same way.
I think that's totally fair, though, because these are not healthy relationships, and I would imagine you aspire to have healthy relationships since you were since you started dating in an early age. And so, so this is, you're not supposed to enjoy the fact that this is happening. But I do think this is a window into the fact that these two have this need to jab, they're like tigers circling each other in a way. And we're going to find out, of course, that she is his lady tiger down the road. All right. So now we cut to Tony driving Manolo home in a clearly green screen scene, which I think is hilarious, which I think is on purpose. I think Palma wanted to give that kind of 1930s feel to it, you know?
But check this with. She like me.
She like you, huh? How do you know?
And Tony says a line that I've always defaulted to in my interactions with people.
The eyes, Chico. They never lie.
Were you serious?
Serious. What do you think?
Man, that's the boss's lady, okay? We're gonna get us killed already.
Man, the bossy lady.
Man, I'm so team Manny. And I've been Manny. Like, I've been where you're with someone and they're going forward doing something fucking stupid. And you're like, dude, it's the boss's wife. It's not just the boss's wife. It's not like the manager of the local Wendy's' wife and you're the fry guy. It's the mob boss's wife. He just showed up in this country. He got you a green card. You just almost you watched a buddy get cut up with a chainsaw like 2 days ago. Right. Like, yeah, maybe slow your roll, Tony. Let's be a little more careful.
I'm going to use a term that I'd never thought to use this term with Tony Montana, but there is a sense of entitlement to Tony.
Oh,
he feels, as we're going to see many times throughout this because this is to me, this is the beginning of the formative section of the movie. The construction of Tony Montana is here. And there's a number of things where he feels that he is owed things, right? We saw it when he was at the washing the dishes and he's like, what does that guy have that I don't have? You know, he's got this sense of entitlement. Negotiating with Omar, he's got this sense of entitlement. Yeah. And the same thing here. When he wants something and he thinks the other person is too weak to have it, in his mind, he's going to go take it because he thinks that's right.
Yes.
He thinks that's right. And it fits his world order. Elvira fits into that world order.
Don't fucking go crazy on me, okay? Just remember last year at this time we were in a fucking cage, okay?
You remember. I like to forget that.
I say be happy with what you got.
You'll be happy. Me, I want what's coming to me.
Oh, well, what's coming to you, Tony?
The world, Chico. And everything in it.
That is the Tony Montana mantra, Steve. Yeah.
Well, and I think this relates to exactly you saying this thing about privilege. I actually think it's a very interesting statement because I think the world, Chico, and everything in it is critical to that because essentially what Tony Montana is doing is he is manifesting his future. To use that term that hasn't been invented yet in the early 80s, he has decided that he will have the world and everything in it. And because he is so certain of that, I mean, he's manifesting, he visualizes it, he sees it, he knows it. That's why he's privileged. Because he's already imagined himself with the privilege. He is supposed to have that, and therefore he walks out and takes what he wants.
And everything is in service of that. Everything he's doing, every moment that he's going through life is in service to get the thing that he wants, and no one is going to stand in his way. All right, and Steve, the film does what it's going to do now in a number of moments as we go forward, which is fade to black, which is a really interesting technique to use in the early 1980s for a film like this. But it adds to me, Steve, it adds to the epic nature of it. It almost feels like Lawrence of Arabia when you have those fade to blacks and these sections of the film, almost like going to intermission in a way. It gives you the audience a chance to breathe. And when we come back up, it is 3 months later. We see this graphic. 3 months later, we descend on a beach as the camera moves us across the sand to an outdoor Miami bar. And there we see Tony and Manny having tropical drinks. Tony tells
It's ridiculous tropical drinks. Stevie, these are some silly drinks.
They are, right? But this is the thing. And this is also the thing that's fascinating about sometimes immigrants that come to the Latino immigrants that come to the country. Like, they're not aware of the cultural signifiers of things sometimes. So the most outlandish drink sitting in front of them, I think, is hilarious, especially because these guys are caught up with machismo and manly and all this kind of stuff. Yet those are arguably, I would say, the most effeminate drinks you could put in front of these guys. The other part of this that I think is important is that throughout the film, Steve, I think Brian De Palma so craftily finds moments to add levity, add humor, humanize these guys, so that you like them, even though they're doing the most horrible shit, right? David Chase did this with The Sopranos, with Tony Soprano, but then he'd always do something to remind you about how crazy these guys are.
This is paradise, I'm telling you. This town like a great big pussy, just waiting to get fucked on.
I think that is definitely a worldview. I mean...
And shout out to Lonely Island, who used this line and gave it to Michael Bolton to sing in their song a few years ago, which I think is one of the most amazing things I never thought I'd hear in my life, is Michael Bolton singing this exact quote out in a song.
I'm telling you, I should have come 10 years ago. I'd have been a millionaire by this time. By this time, I'd have my own boat, my own car, my own golf course.
This is the vision of Tony Montana. There is a belief, not only as we talked about the entitlement and the privilege, Steve, but that if he had this opportunity, he would be a multimillionaire, and have all of these things.
And he would be.
Yes.
I think if he'd come 10 years earlier, he would have been a multimillionaire, and he would have been dead 10 years earlier.
That's a fair point. Yes, 100%. And here's the difference in the worldviews. We're going to get it next with Manny's line, because Manny's dream is just a line of blue jeans with his name on the back of it. And kids back in the 80s, they had Sergio Valente jeans, and the jeans had his name sewn onto the back of the jeans that were a really big deal. And it kind of signified that you were almost a property of Sergio Valente. And so Manny has a much more smaller goal than Tony does. It's very interesting when you look at it.
Manny could be a happy person.
Oh, yeah.
Manny could, like, whether he's a drug dealer, happy person, or a not drug, he's as soon as you have the ambitions to have the whole world,
right,
you're never going to be happy.
So let me ask you this, because this is a fascinating thing to bring up, because we just talked about Tony's privilege, but Manny, in a way, is kind of like the lazy privileged. Manny could absolutely have everything Tony wants, and I would argue it would come even quicker. Why? He's in fantastic shape. He's younger. He's more attractive. So everything, he has all the advantages to achieve the things that Tony wants to achieve, but he, from his who he is as a person, is not a driven person to achieve that kind of thing. So he latches on to someone like Tony, who is, right? And Manny is almost along for the ride in this whole situation. Because I agree with you, Steve. I think he's a naturally happy person. Not necessarily because he was born into privilege, just the way he was constructed from birth. He is a naturally happy person. You never see him put off unless it's to, like, ward off danger or warn about danger. But I agree with you. He would be happy doing almost anything.
I mean, Manny, it's like, I mean, I'm not going to just say, like, hey, Manny seems like a good guy. Good guy is not exactly the right word. He's a drug dealer and a killer, and we see him do terrible things. But within the context of this world, he kind of seems like a good guy.
Yes.
Like, he seems totally dependable. He's very, very competent.
Yes.
Like, Tony knows that he's going to do the right thing. He's nice. He's not too ambitious. He actually cares about Tony and cares about a bunch of other people that we meet. Yeah. Like, this is, and it's so funny because, again, we're making Godfather comparisons, and the theme of this movie connects in the sense of the American dream and what does it mean to be a success and what does the world think of you. And we know that Michael Corleone's vision of that destroys him and destroys his entire family. Right. And the same is true with Tony. And Manny, that wouldn't be the case.
Right.
Manny wouldn't make the deal with Sosa, but Manny doesn't need $75 million.
Right. Like, if Tom Hagen had taken over The Godfather and become The Godfather, I think that family's still around, achieves success, and does all those things. But Michael did it from a place, I think, after they attacked his father, it was all vengeance all the time. And that's the mentality. It was a quiet vengeance, but it was a vengeance nonetheless consistently. And Tony, I think, in comparison to Manny, Tony knows he comes from a poor family.
Yeah.
He comes from a terrible situation, a father who left them when he was younger. And so for Tony, he has this drive to achieve these things because he feels he was given a bad deal in life. And he's almost mad at God, I would argue, that he was given this lot in life when he knows he deserves more. So he's going to destroy everything until he achieves the things he wants to achieve. And what we find out, which he would have found out with any good psychiatrist worth their salt, is that when you achieve the thing and you haven't fixed the thing that's wrong with you, you're never going to be happy. And he thinks where he's going to is going to make him happy.
You know how you pick up chicks in this country?
And sticks his tongue out to show Tony his technique.
Ooh, look at that fucking thing. That looks like a lizard.
And I say, Steve, I wrote this down. These moments of levity are so important in this movie, Steve, to give us a break for a second, but also make us care for these characters, don't you think?
These are fish out of water guys drinking their crazy drinks at this beach club. And it is kind of fun to have a little comedic moment with them that isn't too harsh on them, I would say. Right. But the thing too, watching, I'm like going, wait, what is Manny saying? He's not actually saying that he would do that tongue gesture to a woman. Is that what he's going to do? And then you see him go off and do it. It's like, Jesus Christ. Like, but again, I'm going to contrast this with my discussion of our last film, The 40-Year-Old Virgin.
Oh, yeah.
I am sure that there are people out there who do Manny's move and it works.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know, seems weird to me, but you know, okay.
Yeah. And it can work. A cute blonde walks in front of them, turns and adjusts her bikini bottom right in front of them. And that's almost like a mating call, almost like a peacock putting its feathers out. And now this gives Tony the opportunity to push Manny to go talk to her and try out his technique. He wants to see the technique in motion. And Manny follows this blonde back to her beach chair, but then Tony walks behind them and sits down and immediately starts talking to these young kids. Again, really smart way to humanize Tony, right?
Yes.
Later, he's going to ask Elvira if she likes kids. So Tony is missing that sense of family, right? And so sitting with these two kids and having them watch Manny, I think is a way to also make us care for Tony a little bit, see another side of Tony, so to speak.
Ish. I kind of go ish. I mean, I do think it is very clear that there is a theme of this interaction with kids. He tells Elvira he wants kids, and then he refuses to kill kids.
Right.
And to me, it's like, it's just trying to get me to like Tony Montana, or trying to make me feel like he's sympathetic. I just feel like would have to be a lot more heavy lifting. But the scene with the kid is cute, and it is cute watching what happens.
Yeah, because Manny, as I said, Manny follows her to the beach chair, but then he sticks his tongue out and gets slapped for his troubles. And Tony laughs along with the kids, then gets Manny. And as they walk away, Steve, Tony, in classic male sexist fashion, yells out over his shoulder and calls the woman a bitch and a lesbian for rejecting his advances.
Yep. I mean, look, these are these guys.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And in response to this rejection from this woman, Tony now gives Manny some advice.
What I try to tell you, this country, you got to make the money first. Then when you get the money, you get the power. Then when you get the power, then you get the woman. That's why you got to make your own moves.
Steve, do you agree with this assessment of America and American women? I'm going to put you.
I think, first of all, I mean, this is one of the great lines. I mean, it's one of the great moments. And particularly because anything that has a Simpsons reference, because there's the moment where he finds a truck of sugar.
In America, first you get the sugar, then you get the power, then you get the women.
So, it's fantastic. Yeah. It is, and I think this perfectly illustrates the fallacy of the American dream and how we propagate the American dream among people, which is that people believe, I mean, yes, does money lead to power? Yes, it does. Yeah. Do people with money and power get the women? Yeah, people with money and power can get the women. But the last piece of it that isn't mentioned, the silent part of this line is, and then you will be happy, and then things will be okay, and then you will feel good. And that is not true. Right. And I think, I mean, you could even think right now, probably you could come up with some very rich people who were very powerful and seem very, very unhappy.
Yeah.
So this is the fallacy to me.
Yes, I agree with you 100%. We see, 100%. Like the idea of wealth equaling happiness is not there because, as you said, we see so many people who have a lot of money who are just angry at the world and want to reconstruct the world in the way they want it to function, which is not a mature adult way to look at the world. They're children, and that is just kind of mind blowing to look at.
What's so hard is that the opposite is generally true, which is it can be extremely hard to be happy when you have no money.
Yes. 100%.
Like, so the lack of wealth is definitely a cause for unhappiness.
Right.
So it seems logical. Therefore, if I had wealth, I would automatically have happiness. And that's what's not true.
Exactly. The great philosopher Notorious B.I.G. once said, "Mo money, mo problems." And that's absolutely the truth. Well, now we cut to Tony and Manny picking up Elvira in their yellow Cadillac with tiger print interior.
I wouldn't be caught dead in that thing.
Can I tell you about my weird reaction to this moment?
Yes, please.
So, and I really judged myself. Like I really had a moment of looking at myself and feeling kind of shitty. So as I've said many times, my dad's optometric practice was in the Mission District in San Francisco, which is a largely Latino community. All the people that work for him are Latino. I spent a lot of time there. And I always remembered, honestly, I'm just going to say it exactly the reality, which is silently as a kid judging or mocking some of the fashion design choices of that was very much, and it's very much this car.
Yeah.
American mainstream culture thought that particular aesthetic was tacky and ridiculous. And I bought into that statement and supposed to looking at it now going, I mean, do I like that style? No, I don't like that style particularly. But everybody develops their style from the country that they're from where things look cool. Right. And so Tony and Manny are following exactly what they thought would look like success, not knowing that American white culture harshly judges that particular aesthetic.
Especially tiger print. Yes, exactly.
Tiger print, man.
But we're allowed people. So we're going to have a loud fashion sense, you know, and I love that about this moment. And so, Tony, who always wants to please, or who clearly wants to please Elvira because he has a big crush on her. We cut to Tony now buying a Porsche with Manny and Elvira at this dealership. When we hear, Steve, for the first time, we hear about Tony's obsession with tigers, as if the tiger print in the car wasn't enough to clue us in. Manny tells us that Tony has been dragging him down to zoos to look at tigers.
You gonna drive around with a tiger in your passenger seat, Tony?
Maybe some lady tiger.
And the camera lingers on Elvira's response, Steve. What are your thoughts on this? Because you can tell she's amused. And it's the first hint we've had since the club. And remember, this is 3 months later, that she might be interested in Tony.
Before I answer your question, what does the tiger symbolize to you?
Oh, just a vicious animal in the jungle that goes and gets what it wants, right? And hunts its prey and is a predator. That's kind of how I looked at tigers.
I think there's like a beautiful, untamable quality, that there's I think it's the untamable nature about Elvira that is part of the attraction. That's what makes her a tiger.
Sure.
I find this whole, again, it's like, I mean, part of it is I just go like, man, it takes a long time to buy a car. Like he just dragged her to a car dealership.
Yeah.
It just all seems kind of strange. But what I find more interesting is where things go next in the car.
I wouldn't buy the car you didn't like it.
Planning on driving the girls crazy, aren't you, Tony?
Oh, yeah. You know who?
And what would Frank say?
I like Frank, Only I like you better.
So now he's putting it on the table.
What do you think she wants? What is she thinking?
I think she wants to feel security and taken care of. Again, this is a young woman who probably was groomed at a teenage age, like 17, 18, 19 at the club, maybe was a host, came to get a job, and Frank kind of got his hooks on her and accustomed her to a lifestyle, right? And I think she responds to strength. Now, you could argue maybe this is a woman, like there's a great Elvira prequel story somewhere that you could tell where she, grew up in the same kind of situation that Tony did. A terrible family, maybe the dad's a drug addict or the mom's a drug addict or gambling, whatever. And like she was maybe sexually assaulted by her uncle. And so she learned, and maybe grew up in a trailer park, she learned to have steel in her veins, steel in her blood. And so like she responds to people who have strength because strength provides security for her. And so I think the way Tony is doing things, the fact that he's so bold, in coming after, so bold to challenge Frank for her. There's a certain amount of attraction in that for her. And he's younger than Frank as well. So I think that, and she maybe sees that he's like, one of these guys that's just like her, coming from a hard scrabble upbringing, even though she's wearing beautiful clothes and whatever. You can't take someone out of that upbringing no matter how much you dress them up. It's always there. And so I think that's an element of what's going on between the two of them.
I am, strangely enough, going to disagree with you.
Okay.
I don't think it's about safety and security.
Okay.
I think she has safety and security. Frank is relatively safe and secure. I actually think it's about danger. I think she wants excitement and danger. I think when we see her at the beginning, the first thing she says to Frank is something about him being assassinated at the club.
Mm-hmm.
Then she wants him to dance, and when he's not, he's like, you're just going to have a heart attack, because he's just an old man who's going to waste away and die.
Right.
And everything she does with Tony is to push him to be more dangerous.
Yeah.
I think she wants excitement and danger, and I think she's a bird kept in a cage, and she wants to get the fuck out.
And she's bored.
And bored. Bored is the biggest thing.
Yes, right, which she overtly states in this scene before they get in the car. And yeah, I can see that. Certainly, yeah, definitely. Well, they do a bump of coke together, which I have no idea what this is like. I hope that's called a bump. And then he tries to...
we call that a bump, sure.
Okay. And then he tries to forcibly kiss her, Steve. She pushes him off of her.
Okay. Don't get confused, Tony. I don't fuck around with the help.
This is one of those rare moments in the film where Tony's timing is off. And he thinks he reads a sign that isn't there. And she pushes back, almost offended that he would think to do it this way.
I remember years ago we did Brief Encounter, which was really my movie, really wasn't your movie.
Right.
And you didn't love it when you watched it. And then through our conversation, I think you kind of saw it a little bit through my eyes.
Yeah.
And it changed the way you saw that film. I'm having exactly that experience right now, because this really didn't work for me. Right. Like Tony making that move. It's not just that Tony makes that very aggressive move after her. I understand why he does that. It's the next moment where he puts her hat on and makes her laugh. And she laughs so quickly right after he was so aggressive with her. Right. And that did not make sense to me. Now that we've had this conversation and we've talked about her wanting the danger and her talk about that the aggression is part of the flirting. Yeah. Now the hat moment after he was aggressive with her is starting to make sense. And so I'm starting to click into their relationship in a way that I don't think I understood it before.
And I think this is the moment where the scene where their relationship changes. Him trying to kiss her, right? He misreads the signs and he gets too aggressive. And as I said, I think it offends her because she's enjoying the danger of the flirting. And now he just wants to cut to this, right? Just like a guy. He doesn't want to do the foreplay. He just wants to get to the sex. And she is not going to do it that way. And so but to his credit, instead of getting offended or calling her a bitch or a lesbian, as Manny might have done, he instead resorts to comedy to wear down her defenses, right? And I'm going to bring something up to you that I've never thought about until I started doing the show with you and really looking at this movie. Is what he's doing with Elvira the same kind of techniques he might have used with Gina? And did they have relations when they were younger? Is this a technique he learned?
You're saying whether or not he had an incestuous relationship with his sister?
Yes. And I'm wondering if he learned to do these playful moments because his sister is younger than him to kind of get her to forgive him or to be more open to it. And so I know that's a more sinister way to look at the scene, but you can't ignore, as we're going to get to here in a few minutes, the relationship between the incestuous overtones that are there and undertones that are there in the interactions between Tony and Gina.
So the fact that Tony is doing sort of a more childlike, goofy thing, I can see that, and it's definitely what it is. And we just had a moment where he was talking to kids before, and we know that he likes kids. So I can kind of see that. Here is my initial reaction to that idea, which is, to me, that makes the movie worse. If I put that in my headcanon, it makes the scene at the end less powerful and fucked up. Even though by adding a more fucked up thing to the backstory, I actually think it lessens my experience. It's a weird thing when we talk about headcanon, because what you're really saying is, this movie is better when I imagine this in my head. You know what I mean? That's what you're saying. And this movie, to me, my initial reaction would be it would not be better if I imagined something with him and his sister.
Well, I don't look at it quality-wise better or worse. I look at it as it's an interesting element to throw in the mix, to add to what's going on here, because his behavior in these moments is so antithetical to who Tony actually is a majority of the time. So the fact that he can so easily slide into these playful moments is a bit kind of weird and odd. Now, I know they're doing it to humanize him and make you like him, and he does wear down Elvira in that moment because she lets out a laugh, whether she wants to or not. She lets her walls down a little bit. And so I'm just wondering, where did Tony learn to do this? Because Tony does not strike me as a guy who's that experienced with women, as we saw with him trying to forcibly kiss her. So where would he have learned this? And in my mind, I go, oh, Gina would have been the only woman he probably would have learned to do this technique with, to wear down her defenses. Well, after that scene, Steve, now speaking of his sister, we cut to Tony's car arriving outside a small one-level house at night on what looks to be a dead-end street. I love the cinematography here, Steve. There's so many great moments of horizons and skylines and dusk and dawn in this movie. The music has a sad yet kind of hopeful sound to it. He walks up to this house with a gift in his hand, and we hear this new theme from the movie playing, and I think this is Gina's theme that we hear. And so, what are your thoughts on that? What do you think's happening here, Steve, as he's arriving? Like, did you suspect this was his family? Where did you think he was going here when you first saw the movie?
When I watched this recently, as I said, I hadn't seen it in a really long time. I had no idea where we were going, other than the fact that this was entirely different from everything we've seen before in this film. And so the moment which you're about to get to, it's that interesting moment in a movie where you didn't know what was about to happen, but as soon as it starts happening, it's obvious that was what was about to happen. Like we had to go here.
Mama.
Antonio.
Actress Miriam Colon, who is Puerto Rican and playing Tony's mother.
She is a fascinating person. She is the first Puerto Rican member ever of the Actors Studio.
Wow.
And she got in on one audition only in front of Elia Kazan. That is how she started. She's the founder of the Puerto Rican Traveling Theater. She did tons and tons and tons of theater, Broadway in the 50s and 60s. And of course, all the TV you would expect, Peter Gunn, Alfred Hitchcock, Bonanza, Have Gun Will Travel, all that kind of stuff. But she continued to be an important voice in the Puerto Rican theater and in the playwriting world. And the Cine-Files advisory board member, Maria Torres, actually worked with her at the Professional Playwrights Unit with her mom. They did workshops together. She was there when Maria Colon was producing plays and just said nothing but amazing things about this person, who received the National Medal of the Arts from President Obama.
Wow.
Pretty cool person.
That is amazing. Yeah. You got to love the Latino pioneers in the arts. And certainly Miriam Colon deserves all the respect in the world. I love that she's in this scene. She is legitimately shocked to see him and plays it real subtly and even calls him Antonio, Steve, which I think is important. Everyone's been calling him Tony. Here's his mom who calls him by his proper Christian name.
The energy coming off her just from the doorway is palpable.
Yes. Yes. Happy, but also guarded.
Long time.
No postcards from jail, no?
Just in that interaction, Steve, as you said, the nonverbal looks between the two of them, and the palpable energy between the two of them, but then him saying, like, it's been a long time, trying to kind of smooth things over with his mom to connect with her, and she stings him with no postcards from jail, huh? Right there is the window into the relationship and the issues between the two of them.
You got to really wonder just how bad was Tony's behavior 10 years ago. Yeah. Because for mom to be at this place.
Yes.
This is not the, I'm disappointed in you. This is not that you've made some mistakes and this is, you are evil and I do not want you in my life. That's what's coming off of mom right now.
Absolutely. And before it gets too tense, Gina shows up behind her, and this is Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio, who, again, Italian, not Latina.
She made her Broadway debut in a revival of West Side Story in 1980, but Scarface, this is her first film. And I think she's fantastic in this. She has that kind of mini run where she's really good in a bunch of stuff. The Color of Money, something we did a live show on.
Yes.
The unbelievable, I know that you agree with me, performance in The Abyss.
Yeah.
With, I mean, the most emotional sequence in that movie with her and Ed Harris, astounding.
It's the greatest fake death I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Cracked me in two in the theater. Cracked me in two.
Yeah, to me, it's a flawed movie, but that is by far the most emotional human thing James Cameron ever did in his entire career.
I agree with you. I agree with you. Yeah.
Incredible. And she continues to do work on stage and TV, and she's one of those people who's like, you were almost a big star. You know what I mean? Like you had that moment, and then Hollywood is very, very fickle, particularly with women as they age. It just isn't interested in them for very long.
Yeah, she still occasionally pops up in things, and I'm always happy when I see her. But yeah, I mean, you would have loved to have her have like something like Madam Secretary, or one of these CBS shows where she could be the lead for like a few seasons, like you see. I think she's such an incredible actress. It would have been great to see that.
Tony?
Oh, hey, look at you. Hey, you're beautiful. The last time I saw you, you was like that. You look like a little boy. When I look at you.
And De Palma frames this so well, Steve, with their mother in between the both of them as some sort of figurative barrier, right? And he pulls out a gift for Gina, and she hugs him with all the years of missing him in that one hug. And they hold each other, Steve, almost like they're an actual couple, with his hands like on the small of her back and her close to him, with their stomachs touching. She opens her gift, and it's a heart locket that reads, "To Gina from Tony, always," and I wrote this down, "and now we are in uncomfortable town." So your thoughts on this? I mean, is this how I've never greeted my sister like this? I have no idea how, this would look so weird to me if I saw a brother and sister greet each other like this. What did you read from this greeting with these two people?
Well, fortunately, I didn't have the reaction that you did, because it would creep me out for much of the movie. No, I mean, to me, what I read is in her performance was this is a 10-year-old girl's hug of her brother she hasn't seen in forever. You know what I mean? Like her behavior to me reads like a child, even though she's no longer a child. But that's her relationship with him. I didn't have any of the thoughts that you had, and I'm glad that I didn't. But because to me, it's funny too, by the way. So as I told you, I watched the original Scarface, and this is really in the movie. I mean, like the going to the family, seeing the daughter, all that stuff. Although there's not nearly such high tension, but this stuff is really there. And to me, I just read it much more of Tony trying to believe he can hold on to something pure and have it not be sullied, and also support it with his drug money, and which is an impossible contradiction. That's kind of how I see it.
Wow. Yeah, no, I have always and will always believe that this is an incestuous relationship. It may never have been consummated, but I think there is a genuine physical attraction between the two of them. And the film hints at it. I mean,
where we go at the end is like,
that's what I'm saying. And what brother gives a locket that says to my sister from me always? That is something you give to someone who you have a actual relationship, sexual relationship.
Except it is so I will disagree, because so my family had very specific ways that we signed cards.
Okay.
My dad's
cards is not a heart locket, but okay.
I understand, but my dad's always said, "Love me."
Yeah.
My mom says, "Love always me." Like each one had their own thing. So "Love always me" is like, that's what's going on this heart locket.
I disagree, because the heart locket is not a card. To me, the heart locket implies something you wear to show people, and it is something you've known typically to be something that is given to a significant other in your life. But we'll just disagree.
I've seen hearts given to kids many times.
Given to kids from their parents? Yes.
Yeah.
Given to brothers and sisters?
I mean, again, it reads you as weird, but you know what? It's actually important, because what the leopard skin seats in the Cadillac mean to someone from Cuba and what they would mean from someone who is a Harvard dean is different. Is that what a heart locket might mean? Culturally different groups, these actually are sending different messages. It clearly sent a message to you that it did not send to me at all.
I'm doing hair, Tony. Do you remember Iran Gonzalez? His father owned that barbershop. It's his place. Plus, I go to junior college, Miami-Dade, and in 2 more years, I get my cosmetology license. And then I'll be making enough money to
Surprise. All that's over. Starting today.
Why?
My kid's sister don't have to work in no beauty parlor. And Mama, she don't have to sew in no factory.
He lies that that's why he didn't come around until now and drops $1,000 on the table. This is a power move by Tony, and he thinks he is cock of the walk here, and he thinks he's going to come in. And this is him, again, this is kind of interesting. Tony, again, misreading a situation, going for the bold move, thinking that this is going to win the affection of the woman that he really wants to win the affection from. And that's not Gina, it's his mom. And I don't mean affection in a sexual way. I mean like affection, like, love. And he thinks, okay, now my mom's not going to, and this is the American dream you read about all the time, Steve, right? Once I make it, I'm going to buy my mom a house and she's never going to have to work again. And like we saw in Forrest Gump, right? Where Bubba's mom was the servant. And then when they got the money, Bubba's mom became the owner of the place. And there was the white woman who was the servant. So, you know, you see that. And I think this is the element of what's going on here, right after he had tried to forcibly kiss Elvira.
I think this is the manifestation of first you get the money, then you get the power. And it's like, and of course, we're not saying get the women is that's, you know, what he means.
Right.
But essentially, in his mind, money, power, that is success.
Yes.
And in the 10 years back in Cuba, he failed. It's like he went out and broke the laws, but he did not succeed. He ended up in jail. And so in his mind, what for mom is my son is a criminal who did horrible things. That's why she doesn't want him around.
Right.
But in his mind, all I need to do is have the money and the power and the success. And then I can heal things with mom because that is what success means. Mom's definition of success is entirely different. And so him coming in with $1,000 is like, see, I've succeeded.
Right.
Now you can be proud of me. And her reaction is, you're even more of a criminal than I thought, basically.
Who did you kill for this, Antonio?
Mama.
I didn't kill nobody, Mama.
What are you doing now? Banks? Or is it still bodegas, you and the others?
No, things are different now. I'm working with an anti-Castro group. I'm an organizer now. And I get a lot of political contributions.
Sure you do. The gun sticking in somebody's face.
Does he actually think that she's going to believe this political contributions thing?
I think he thinks he can snow her, as a lot of sons think they can snow their mothers. But a lot of mothers know better. Whether they want to admit it or not is a whole nother conversation. But I think a lot of mothers always kind of suspect and know better, but they're not always willing to stand up to their sons when their sons are starting to snow them or take advantage of their love and affection or kindness for them. And so I think Tony thinks he can get away with this.
Right.
But the mom is very clear that he can't.
This is why, obviously, you know, a movie about my criminal enterprise wouldn't be nearly so interesting because, and it's the reaction I have like in Goodfellas when you're going into the Copacabana and he's handing out $20 bills to everybody. Nobody can afford to do that. You are saying to Karen in that scene, I'm a mobster.
Yeah.
Nobody who got off the boat coming from Cuba 3 months ago or whatever it was, maybe, you know, can just drop $1,000.
Right.
Like you're, and I don't know what you're talking about with these political contributions. I mean, I'm not saying that Tony is a political genius or anything, but if you end up with $1,000 in cash, you are breaking the law.
Yeah.
He's still saying to her that I'm a criminal. It's just a different kind. Like, it's just ridiculous that he thinks he's going to fool her with this.
Essentially, he's saying like, yes, I shaved some money off the top, but I'm giving it to you. Right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like, you know, trying to engage her in the criminal enterprise. Now, listen, I want to say this because I want to read this monologue, and I think this is important because the movie itself has come under criticism for years by Cuban Americans. I recently spoke to a board member of ours who told me about his friend who was one of the Marielitos who came over at a young age. I don't think I have the permission to say the person's name, so I'm just going to say that in more obscure terms. And he was 10 years old when he came over with his family. It was part of the Mariel boatlift. And he was taught from a young age to hate this movie because he was told that the movie glorifies that Cubans were, the people who came over, these Cubans were criminals, and it glorifies him as a criminal. And this is some of the stuff that we confronted with Wolf of Wall Street. You know, so, a board member, Brennan Marr, told us, well, why would we like this movie? I don't like this movie because it glorifies Jordan Belfort. And my counter to Brennan, and I stand by this, was that, well, no, actually it shows all the terrible things that he has done throughout the movie. Now, you as the audience member, if you like the terrible things he's doing, that's a conversation that you need to have with yourself. And so I come back to this movie and I say, all these people who criticize this movie for glorifying Tony is a terrible person throughout the movie and gets a horrible ending and experiences this horrible thing with Gina, kills his best friend, ruins his relationship. And in this moment, you have his mother, a central figure in his life, call him out and defend the hardworking Cubans and hardworking Latino immigrants who come to this country and denigrate Tony for being a criminal. So when people unfairly vilify this movie as somehow glorifying this Cuban American as the symbol of violence and whatever, I always go, well, what about the mom who absolutely calls him out? And I think this is such an essential thing to have in the movie.
You know, all we hear about in the papers is animals like you and the killings. It's Cubans like you who are giving a bad name to our people. People who come here and work hard and make a good name for themselves. People who send their children to school and pay their taxes.
What are you saying? That's your son!
Son!
I think this is an amazing moment in the film. I think it's really powerful. I think it's really important. And I'm trying to think of how to pull apart some of the stuff you said about Wolf of Wall Street and representation and how we do this. And it's really complicated. And the first thing I would say is that Wolf of Wall Street doesn't have to deal with the issue that Scarface has to deal with, which is you're not talking about a group in the sense of Wolf of Wall Street is there are people aren't going, hey, you're making white people look bad. That's not going to be a message that you're going to worry about. Whereas with Cuban Americans who have been discriminated against and there are lots of opinions against, then you are going to have a Cuban American community that might object to what's in this. I actually think Wolf of Wall Street is in many ways more despicable and more fun. That movie is designed to have you enjoy some of the horrible, ridiculous, and insane things that are going on in that film, more so than I feel in Scarface.
Well, that's your perspective, right?
Yes.
And I would say that when I look at both of those movies, I see they're equal in the way they're trying to humanize the main character, make you like the main character, but then not pull any punches in showing you the terrible things that he's doing.
No, I agree. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. The distinction for me is that there's way more in Wolf of Wall Street that's just look at how much fun these guys are having with drugs and women and all this stuff. Whereas Scarface is not indulging in that. You see him doing things, but not at the same level.
Again, that's perspective because I actually don't see that. I think it's terrible what they're doing in Wolf of Wall Street. I don't have fun with what they're doing. Like I don't radiate fun with the way they're throwing little people at targets, the way they're abusing women throughout the movie and using.
No, it's horrible.
Right. Yeah. So to me, I actually don't find fun in those things that he's doing or the drug use and anything. Acting wise, I'm marveling at what DiCaprio is doing for sure. But the character himself is despicable, and all the things they're doing, and especially Jonah Hill. You know, the way they denigrate human beings throughout the whole movie is horrific. You know, and it's what's weird is at least I think with Tony's better because Tony does it to your face. Except for the Elvira and Frank thing, Tony is in your face constantly. Like Sosa was going to say a little bit later, there is no lying in Tony. There is a lot of lying in Jordan Belfort. You know,
so. To the idea of like this in terms of representing a group, and I think it's something we have a very, very hard time navigating. Obviously, it's something you and I have discussed many, many times on the show. Yeah. But like for me, the issue is not can you have a Cuban American character who is as bad a guy as Tony Montana? That's not the problem. The problem is how many other Cuban American characters are there in film? It's that this is the only story of a Cuban American for a decade. And so it's like, I have no problem, objection whatsoever, because humans are humans. And we've been saying the whole show, you know.
But we already had Ricky Ricardo into society before Tony showed up. So we've already had a positive Cuban American influence for decades before Tony Montana showed up.
Yeah,
I turn it around more for I blame the audience. And I know it's something that a lot of people hesitate to do. I blame the audience. The audience finds him interesting. The audience finds him exciting. The audience is the one that turned this movie into a classic, even though it didn't do that well at the box office. It's the audience that likes Tony Montana. So to me, the mirror should be turned on the audience, not the movie. Why do you like it? Why do you enjoy this movie? What is it about this movie that speaks to you? And I am quite proud to say that, yes, the things that he does in this movie are thrilling and exciting, and I like him as a character, even though I recognize he is a terrible human being. It's the same way I feel about Tony Soprano, you know, or a number of other anti-heroes that I've seen. And so, well, no, he's not heroic in any way, I think, except for saving the kids, of course. But like overall, to me, I think I would ask the audience, why do you think this character endures and has become such a pop culture icon, considering all the negative things? It has, and I think it speaks to the fact that the audience kind of likes crime a little bit, kind of likes the idea of going and getting what they want and not caring about the consequences, you know?
I mean, we just did a short about characters that we shouldn't like that we do. And this is, you know, it's like we are thrilled to, we love watching people do bad stuff. That is thrilling and exciting. It's empowering because it's like, oh, I fantasize about being able to do whatever. Like that stuff is all there. I'm going to do something I rarely do, which is I want to make my same point again, because I think it's important that I want to make sure to say it the right way, which is, yes, you're right. We had Desi Arnaz. Yeah. And then we have Tony Montana. And to me, that is way too few. The problem, but this is the thing, is that if there were 30 movies about Cuban Americans in all walks of life, which Cuban Americans are in all walks of life, musicians and doctors and policemen and everything, and then nobody would be saying, why are you representing Cuban Americans with a guy like Tony Montana? Right. It's the lack of diversity in all the films that we're saying. It's like, I don't think there's anything wrong with having an African-American woman play a maid, or having a Middle Eastern person in a convenience store or something like that. People have those jobs. The problem is those are the only images we're seeing of those people. Well, of course. That's the issue.
Yeah, you know, it's all that to me as a Latino. Yes, I'm very clear on that. Yes,
I didn't mean to be Steve-splaining you. That wasn't my intent.
This has been
but I did want to make my
drum
point.
beat for years. Yes.
Yeah.
No, but I think I'm not saying I don't get why people say this, right? But I do think the movie addresses it, and I think that's why I think this monologue is important or the scene rather is important from his mom.
You suddenly show up here and throw some money around and think you can get my respect. You think you can buy me with jewelry?
Come on, Mama. No.
You think you can come into my house with your hotshot clothes and your jail manners and make fun of us?
Mama, you don't know what you're talking about.
No, that's not the way I am, Antonio. That is not the way I raised Gina to be.
This is great. Incredible monologue. Super powerful. Wow. It just occurred to me, we had this whole conversation of Frank whining and dining Tony and throwing all sorts of money and his hot wife at him. And that does seduce Tony. Right. So what does Tony do with his mom? He brings jewelry and money, and that doesn't seduce her at all.
No, because
Tony's susceptible. She isn't.
Because she's an older woman and she's gone through life and she understands what that leads to. Maybe she's known people or seen people. And of course, as you said, about Frank and Omar, they came over from Cuba after the situation. She came over from Cuba because Fidel did some terrible things to people. Castro did some terrible things to people in lower income classes and people who didn't agree with his point of view and what he was trying to do with the country. And, you know, she fled the country because of the abuse that was suffering, the people he was jailing, all the things that he was doing. And so you see that with her, like there is a pride in the fact that she works for her living, she earns. And again, I want to stress this very clearly for everybody who listens to us. I come from an immigrant household. My parents worked multiple jobs to feed us, worked multiple jobs to house us, to put roof over our heads. And so it drives me insane when I see people push this stereotype about Latin immigrants who come over and don't work, especially people who were born into coddled privilege where they get to sit around playing video games all day and don't have to work hard or work at the lowest level job they can find because they don't want to work that hard and they can live off their parents' money, which a lot more people do than want to admit. And so to me, that gets frustrating when you put that on people who come here and work hard and pay their taxes and contribute to this society. And I think that's what she's saying here is symbolic of a majority of Latino immigrants, not just Cuban Americans, a majority of Latino immigrants who come over here. And yes, we are also offended by the people who come over who are immigrants and commit crimes because it does stain us because the narrative is not balanced. The narrative is always, what can we find to denigrate Latinos? Let's find this one person. Never mind that there's 5,000 other white people committing crimes. It's because this one Latino immigrant comes over, they now can lambast the entire number of immigrants that come over and paint them as criminals and whatever. And it's so offensive,
I think that's why this scene is so critical to the movie. Yeah. And in my opinion, it's like mom has the right values. Mom believes in honest day's work and doing the right thing and taking care of your family and probably taking care of the community. And the thing about that philosophy, it is the world will not be yours. It's not going to get you millions of dollars. It's not going to get you the Rolls Royce and the fancy car and the cocaine and the champagne. It's not going to do that. But you won't be. But Tony Montana is a miserable fucking human being.
Right.
And he got all that stuff and then he dies.
Yeah. And really, this is a critical moment because I think if he genuinely loved his mother and believed what his mother was saying, I think this is the moment Tony could have stopped and said, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm scared. It's not for me. I want to work a regular job. But no, his entitlement does not allow him to see and hear what his mother is saying. And instead he finds more power or strength or value in going this route with trying to make the money and be the kingpin of drugs that he wants to be in Miami. Yeah. So Tony says, okay, and walks out, and Gina pulls away from her mom and runs out to apologize to Tony.
I don't know. I just want you to know. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me how long you've been away. 5 years or 10 years. You're my blood. Always.
I think it's really powerful, and I think you can hear the little girl that missed her older brother.
Right.
And I don't know what happened with Dad, and I don't know what happened under the communists, but I think it was really, really bad.
Yeah.
I mean, it's certainly, we know lots of stories of people under Castro experiencing terrible, terrible things, and people under Batista before experiencing terrible, terrible things.
Right.
And I go I think she, the little girl whose brother had gone away, put a whole bunch of romantic, untrue notions on her brother.
Yes.
The person that she says, you're my blood always, and I love you, and all that affection, that is not towards the actual Tony Montana. That is towards the image she's held in her head of her brother for 10 years.
Right. Right. As this kind of noble warrior who fought the communists and got jailed and whatever. And he even says, which I kind of didn't say here, is that don't think about our father. We never had a father. So clearly he was not a good person in their household.
Yeah.
Something. Exactly. Tony gives her a hug, and as they are embracing, Steve, damn it, we cut to Manolo, who looks exactly like Tony did when he saw Elvira, and like Michael Corleone when he saw Apollonia. He looks like he has been struck by lightning as he looks at Gina there through the windshield.
It's perfect. I mean, it's a perfect cut because it's just like the way, and the music hits, and you're just like, yep, this is bad. Bad.
Son of a bitch. Yeah, exactly. Tony gives Gina the money anyway and tells her to enjoy herself, which is the beginning of the depravity of Gina. Now, Tony is doing this to help Gina, right? He thinks she can use this money because the mother's rejected the money. Maybe Gina can use the money to go get her cosmetology license when she needs it and slide some money in. So it's from a good place that he gives her the money. He's not giving her the money so she can go end up dancing with some skeezy dude in a scarf in a club. He gives her the money so that she can improve her life. I think it is one of the rare selfless moments of Tony Montana, but his money is blood money. It is criminal money, and it corrodes Gina.
I mean, but he doesn't I don't think he wants her to go back to cosmetology school. I think he wants, because that is low class. That is working class. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think that's his image. I even think he says something, doesn't he, about when she says going to cosmetology school, that he's like, no.
Yeah, right.
You know, so
but
like
it's to improve her life, I guess is what.
Well, but the reason I bring it up is that, I mean, it is really dumb on Tony's part. Hand a 20-year-old $1,000 and say, enjoy yourself. But you don't want that 20-year-old to go out and do any of the things that she's going to do. You know?
That you did. Or you
would. Yeah, or that you did.
Yeah, exactly. Well, because I think he thinks she's the good one, right? And Manny's going to say this later on in the movie where he says, you're the one pure thing he has in his life. And to see it get corroded, right? So I guess I agree with you. He's misguided in thinking that.
Yeah.
But I do think it's coming from a place of like wanting her to be better. Of
course.
Yeah.
Well, look, he had a whole fantasy in his head the moment he decided to go to this house.
100%.
He's known where this house was probably since he got to Miami, but he has not gone there.
I knew where it was before he even got to Miami.
Yeah. So there's a whole fantasy about being the savior of my mom and my sister.
Right.
You know?
And I think he was right when he said, I didn't want to come here until I'd become a success. But unfortunately, the way he became a success is not the way she wants her to become a success.
Well, and it's exactly the wrong interpretation, because it's you stayed away from your mom because you wanted to. It's like, no, you should have gone to your mom and your sister because you love them and care about them, not so you can prove something to them, which of course we know is not going to mean anything to mom.
Yeah. Well, Tony and Gina embrace and she goes back into the house. Tony gets into the car, and as Manny remarks that Gina is beautiful.
She's beautiful. How come you...
Hey! Stay away from her. You hear? She's not for you.
Okay.
Steve, this is the first hint that Tony has an unnatural protection of his sister with even someone as good, as you said earlier, as Manny.
It's such a scary moment. It is, by the way, exactly what happens in the original film.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because when the original was made, it's right when the Hays Code is starting.
Yeah.
And I don't think the original Scarface would really make it in under the Hays Code when it was fully activated, because it's messed up. Like literally this moment, we're talking about his sister and all this stuff. It is genuinely scary. And what I keep thinking about is that Al Pacino's ability to be absolutely terrifying in two entirely different ways, because what this reminded me of is Michael talking to Fredo in Vegas and saying, never take sides against the family.
Yeah.
That moment. And he's so scary and he's so silent and so still and so soft, and it's terrifying. And this, Tony, is absolutely terrifying, but it's in an entirely different way with an entirely different energy.
Yeah, this feels, I think you're so right. And you can throw in the Godfather Part 2 moment after he slaps Kay. And says to her, like, don't you know that I would never let you take my kids? Don't you know that would never happen? Like, there's a terrifying element of that. I am so in control that I will crush you like a bug if you think you can come for my children, even though you're my wife, even though you're the woman I told that I loved. You know, he has that. When Pacino goes to that gear in these roles early in his career, it's amazing. Amazing.
I just want to highlight what you just said, because I think it's really important, which is that Michael is dangerous because he's so in control.
Yes.
And Tony is dangerous because he cannot be controlled.
Great point, too. All right, Steve, and now we cut to a shot of the Bolivian mountains with some Andean music playing and a red graphic that reads Cochabamba, Bolivia. Now, this is the John Rocha legitimate portion of the movie. This is where my father was born and raised, in Cochabamba on a farm. His mom and his dad had a farm there, and they employed people. His dad died when he was 10 years old. And let's just say the stepfather that my grandmother married was a very abusive man. And my father fled Bolivia when he was 16 years old and lived outside of Bolivia for 17 years in Buenos Aires, Argentina, until the regime change happened and he was able to come back home. So this is something that's very personal to my father. And when the camera moves into a house embedded in the side of the hills, Steve, which is Sosa's compound, my father, when we drove cross country to Burbank, to LA, but then we went to Burbank. When my father saw the houses embedded in the hills, for him, he had like an emotional reaction that it felt like he was back in Bolivia. So it was a really interesting moment.
So you first saw this in the theater with your family, right?
No, what?
Oh,
It's 1983. I was 13.
it's 83.
There's no way.
Okay. So you saw it, but you saw it with
At
your
home.
family the first time.
Yes.
Did your family know there was a Bolivian connection before they played the movie?
Not at all. As I've said, on the show numerous times, The Godfather was a massive, massive film in my family's growing up, right? Togetherness. And so when Pacino was in anything, my family watched it or rented it. So I rented Scarface. I remember, I think I was 17 when I rented it and brought it home. And my dad was willing to watch it with my mom and I think my brother, probably not my sister. And we watched it. And I just remember my dad's reaction just shooting out of the recliner when it said Cochabamba, Bolivia. So that was a big deal to my dad. I mean, because you don't see many movies about Bolivia,
No, we did the only other movie that I know of where they go to Bolivia last year. It must have been a huge moment. It's like my hometown, and particularly a hometown that's so, fraught with a lot of emotional stuff for your dad. I mean, what an amazing thing.
Yeah, and of course, he was well aware of the drug trade, when he was there, and of hearing about it, of course, as well as it was going on there throughout the years. Because people think the drug trade just kind of started like 10, 20 years ago. It's like it's been around for a long time, for a number of decades in one form or another. And of course, coca leaves what cocaine comes from or is used from, but so is, I think, chocolate and Coca-Cola. So I think, and so there's a interesting connection that Bolivians have with the coca leaf. And of course, my dad, well, people don't know this, so I just shouldn't say, of course, but my dad had very strong ties to the Native American community there in Bolivia. He spoke Quechuan, which is one of the two languages that the Native Bolivians speak there, Quechuan or Aymairu. And my dad spoke Quechuan up until the day he died with his brothers. They all spoke it, so there's a sense of belonging there for them when they see this. And for me, I'll add the music. Like my father played Andean music all the time in the house. And that for me, there's a very visceral reaction for me whenever I hear Andean music. It's the only kind of Bolivian music that I enjoy. And I know there's a lot of great Bolivian artists, but to me, it's that native Bolivian music that sparks very strong emotional reactions in me. So I love that you hear this playing underneath as we close a close up in on Sosa's house. We cut to Sosa walking with Omar and Tony, and Sosa is being played by Paul Shinar, who some of you may be surprised to know is of Polish and Slovenian descent, born, Steve, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Polish, Cuban, Milwaukee, Havana, Miami, they're all pretty much the same. I mean, it's pretty indistinguishable. He's an interesting guy. He's a Broadway Shakespearean actor. And I'll tell you something, there is a decent chance I saw this guy on stage because he was one of the founding members of ACT, one of the great repertory companies in San Francisco. My parents had season tickets to ACT. My mom still has season tickets to ACT.
Wow.
And so I'm certain that they saw him. And I went to some of those shows in the 80s, so I might have seen him.
Right.
Unfortunately, he tragically died of AIDS at 53 in 1989.
Yeah, such a shame. But I mean, you couldn't pick three more whiter places to be from, in my opinion: Poland, Slovenia, and Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Yet here he is, so believably playing a Bolivian drug lord. And I should say that Oliver Stone added the character of Sosa. I think I said this at the beginning of our conversation in part one, to the original script that he was adapting from the original movie, which of course was based on that book. But Stone patterned the character after Roberto Suarez Gomez, who was a Bolivian drug lord nicknamed the King of Cocaine. He played a major role in the expansion of cocaine trafficking in Bolivia. He was one of the major suppliers of the Medellin cartel, as well as the leader of the largest Bolivian drug empire. And he worked with people like Pablo Escobar and collaborated with Nazi war criminal Klaus Barbie, who became the chief of his security service there in Bolivia. He actually said, or he intimated, that he stopped working with Pablo Escobar because he got way too violent, Pablo did, even for his taste. And he died of a heart attack in Santa Cruz, Bolivia, and was buried in a small niche in Cochabamba. So there is that connection there. So an interesting character to put into this film. And then walking right behind Tony, Omar, and Sosa is Breaking Bad's Mark Margolis, who is of Jewish descent, Steve. And he plays Sosa's henchman, who is credited as Shadow, and he becomes a very significant figure in the back half of the movie.
Hector Salamanca. It's so crazy to see these connections to Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
And he's one of these dudes who's just, he has a face.
Yes.
There's certain people where it's like, he's way in the background. You're like, wait, who's that guy?
Yeah.
What's that guy about? You know?
And I've seen him in he's such a great character. I remember him in a character actor, rather. I remember him in Secret of My Success. He's the elevator operator. So, you see him pop up in all these kinds of things. And so when he got a chance to be highlighted in Breaking Bad, I was so happy for you. I cheer for the character actors that get a chance to actually sink their teeth into some great meaty roles. And so he's so good here in this film.
So basically, what I'm looking for is somebody in the States who can share the risk with me. Somebody who can guarantee to buy from me, say, 150 kilos a month.
Oh, that's a big commitment, Mr. Sosa. Something like that, It's too bad Frank's not here. You should talk to him.
Yes, it would have been nice if he could have come.
What do you think about this moment between Omar and Sosa? And Sosa kind of showing that he's a little irritated that Frank couldn't get down here and that he's having to deal with Frank's seconds and then this Tony guy who he has no knowledge of,
I think there's like two separate tracks in my brain because on the one hand, Omar is working for Frank and his motivations are based on the relationship with Frank.
Yes.
On the other hand, Omar may or may not be a police informant, in which case that throws all of this off. So putting it on the first one, my sense of what we see from Sosa in his relationship to Omar and the way Omar talks about Frank, Sosa is not happy with Frank and hasn't been that happy with Frank for a while.
Right.
And that Frank is, my feeling is, he is not as good at this as he thinks he is. He thinks he's big time when in fact, he's just above small fry.
Yeah.
In terms of what Sosa thinks.
Right.
And so Sosa is frustrated. And Omar, in this scenario, is just the conservative soldier of a middling drug dealer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
so he can't make any big decisions.
Yeah, I want to ask you a further question, Steve. Do you think Frank pulled out at the last minute? Did he get scared? Was Sosa going to kill him like he's about to kill Omar? And let me give you more perspective here because we're going to meet Bernstein later, right? And what does Bernstein tell Tony about how things are going to be? You pay Bernstein and his cops off. You toss them a few low-level people to arrest, and they'll protect you. Were these associates of Sosa's people that Sosa claims Omar was a stool pigeon for? Were these people the people that Frank turned over to Bernstein, who turned over to the feds? And that screwed Sosa. And was Sosa maybe hoping Frank would come down because it was going to be Frank who was hanging out of that helicopter, not Omar, as we're about to get to?
There were so many, if he thinks this, then he might do this, which would mean he thought that. And so I'm not but I think what your scenario has pointed out is there's a lot of stuff there's a lot of possibilities about what could be going on here. I mean, my feeling about Frank was just more like, he senses Sosa's disappointment in him, and so he doesn't want to be around. That's like one layer of it. But now we get into the police and we get into all these other things. My respect for Frank kind of continues to go down as we keep having this conversation. Like, I think I'm starting to think that Elvira might be correct to be a bit disappointed in him and that he's talking a big game and he's real loud and boisterous, but maybe he's not the real dude, Yeah,
exactly. And I think this is a smart construction of the movie because initially Frank is seen as this person who's more elevated and accomplished than Tony. But as the movie goes on to this point, as Tony grows in power, you have to diminish Frank. And that's going to lead to that moment where Frank turns on Tony. And then we know what Tony does to Frank in the movie. So it's interesting.
He would like to come, Mr. Sosa, but with his trial coming up and everything, it's hard for him to get out of the country.
So he sent you instead.
Which is a bit of a condescending response. And it's almost seen as an insult, Steve, that he sent Tony and Omar, I feel like, just to reiterate my point from earlier. Then he says they should talk at his house. And Tony, in his typical, and I'll say this again for you Latino people who understand this reference, his typical campesino style.
You got good stuff here. Class A chip.
You see that Tony is trying to butter up Sosa like he buttered up Frank a little bit. Here because he sees Sosa as an accomplished man. And so Tony becomes a completely different person when he's around people of accomplishment in the world of drugs.
I think, it's classic class structure stuff where he sees at each stage, like Tony only knows how to behave the way the world he is in has taught him to behave.
Great point.
And that at each stage, as he moves up sort of the economic ladder, and Sosa being very, very high up that economic ladder, you can see how he's using the way. So him going to, if the Colombian deal in the motel had not been a horrible, just butt of torture and chainsaws, if it had just been a deal, it would have been perfectly reasonable for Tony to sample the coke and go, it's good shit.
Yeah.
Right? That's totally within, but you don't say that to Sosa.
Right.
Like that's not, that is not what the environment you're in now. And we'll see later on when he eats the lemon in the finger bowl, like he doesn't know the rules, which is, and again, and this is, coming a little bit from the opposite perspective of you. It really fucking pisses me off when rich people make fun of poor people because they don't know the rules. It's like they weren't born with a silver spoon in their hand, so they don't know which one to use at the dinner table.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that's not, there's all sorts of shit if we put you on the street that you wouldn't know how to do either, or how to behave, or what to say, or what to do. It's about where you grew up.
I think of George W. Bush not knowing what the price of a gallon of milk was, right? Like they're so removed from things sometimes that they themselves don't understand what it's like on the ground floor. There should be grace given to both sides, right? Like we respect the fact that some people just don't have that as a normal operating thing in their lives, and on all sides,
Although the George W. Bush thing I always think is unfair because the dude was at the White House for 12 years. Like he hadn't bought a bottle of milk in over a decade.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying you got to give him grace because he had no knowledge of what this.
Okay. Yeah. It's not that he was rich and privileged. No. It was that he was, vice president and president.
Exactly. What's he know about milk?
So this Lopez guarantees to buy from me 150 kilos every month of the year. He picks it up down here. I can sell it to him for as little as 7,000 a key. You cannot do better than that.
Yeah, but then we gotta take the risk of moving it. Also, we'll be cutting out the Colombians. You know what that means?
That means we have to go to war with them.
So already, Steve, the Colombians are back in the conversation. I mean, the Colombians... it's not necessarily waiting for Godot because we saw the Colombians earlier in the film, but certainly the danger of the Colombians is a big deal when this movie is made in 1983. Remember, the idea of Colombians being a massive deal in drugs didn't come into the pop culture mainstream for a little bit after this movie, but it was clear that the people who researched this movie, Oliver Stone, Brian De Palma, and others, understood the power of Colombians in the drug trade.
It's interesting. It's just interesting different things we react to. And maybe it is because, as you said, as a Latino, you have these things mean more to you.
Oh, yeah.
Like which country this is than they mean to me. Because the mention of the Colombians is like fourth down on the important things that are going on to me. Like, I'm not saying that it's not important, but the most important thing that goes on to me is Tony speaking up when he shouldn't.
Right.
Like that, which is exactly what he did when he and Manny were talking to Omar at the car. Yes. Manny is making the negotiation. Omar tries to undersell him and Tony jumps in. Here, Omar, he doesn't like the way Omar is negotiating with Sosa, and he jumps in. And the looks and the intensity coming off of F. Murray Abraham towards Tony in this moment are great.
Yeah, and it's interesting dance that Omar does here because he is clearly irritated that Tony chimes in. But as we're going to get to here, he also lets Tony negotiate to see how Sosa will react to Tony's proposals. And it isn't until Sosa leaves the table that we hear that we have both of them going at it over what Tony is doing. Because Tony does chime in now in this moment, unprompted, as Steve was saying, and takes over the negotiations.
You guarantee your delivery, say, as far as Panama. We take it from there.
Panama, risky. Costs me more. Panama I can sell for 13.5 a key.
13.5? What are you, nuts?
And now Omar is super pissed. And even Sosa's face, Steve, changes to a mild offense that Tony, who he probably sees as a peasant or a campesino, would talk to him so abrasively like that.
Except, you know what the thing is, though? Yeah. There's this weird thing of he doesn't like, it's clear he does not like Omar. And obviously we have big reasons why he doesn't like Omar that are coming up. But I think Omar is a competent right-hand man.
Sure.
For Frank.
He's safe, just like Frank is
safe.
Yeah.
And Omar doesn't think.
No.
Like Omar is like, well, this is how we do it, so this is how we do it. And Tony, in a second in this moment, said, well, we can't do that but maybe we could do it this way, a totally new way. And so what I think, to me, I would describe Sosa as activated. In other words, as like, here is a business deal. And he's like, oh,
right.
You know, like I'm dealing with Omar to Sosa is a nothing.
Right.
He's a message boy, you know.
And clearly Sosa knows that he's going to kill Omar at some point here. So how much does he give Omar credit for anything he's negotiating?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And so like he's just basically, he thinks this is a waste of time because Frank didn't come and Omar, all the stuff with Omar. But when Tony brings this up, it's like, oh, maybe there's something interesting here.
So he might be irritated, but also maybe, as you said, activated and maybe even developing a little bit of respect for the fact that Tony is willing to go toe to toe with him. Because some people in power actually do like people who speak up and offer solutions and initiative, right? Because you're right. Omar, I think, is middle management that is happy to collect his paycheck every month or every week, every couple of weeks, get his insurance, get his job. And obviously there's not any of that in the drug trade, but I'm saying like, he's like middle management. He's just doing the job that the boss wants him to do. And he doesn't want to step on the boss's toes, but there's always some person who comes in with ambition and ideas and wants to change things up. And some bosses like that and some bosses don't, and clearly Sosa kind of likes the idea. As you said, he's activated here.
13-5. We still got to take that shit to Florida, man. Do you know what that's like these days? You got the fucking Navy all over the place. You got frogmen. You got EC2s with the satellite tracking shit in them. You got the fucking Bell 209 assault choppers up the ass, man. You know, we're losing 1 out of every 9 lows. That's no duck walk anymore, man. Let me tell you. Forget about 13-5.
Again, as we saw with the car and the Porsche, Tony is very well aware of what is going on in this business and the little things, even with the paranoia of the security thing on the cars, he knows the specific things to ask for. And here, he knows the specific things to talk to Sosa about with these EC2s, the Bell 209 assault choppers, the Navy. Like, he's aware of what's going on in the intricacies of the business. And I imagine this impresses Sosa, how much detail Tony knows and has.
100%. And I think this is the key to it, is the moment that Tony goes, we could split it in Panama.
Yeah.
We're in a negotiation.
Mm-hmm.
And in a negotiation, you push. And so Sosa kind of gets a little bigger. It's like, no, we can't do that. And then Tony comes back with, and this is, I'm telling you as a person who's hired people, when someone comes back with the specific nuts and bolts detail of the job, you're like, oh, I want to be in business with this person.
Right.
That's not who Omar is. I don't think Omar could have done what Tony just did.
I bet Omar doesn't even know what the fuck Tony's talking about.
Exactly. And Tony is also going like, this is how I'm going to beat the frogmen. He's thinking all the time about what to do. And so, because I think the difference between like where you feel like him push back a little bit hard when Tony starts talking, like, who the fuck is this guy? I think that's there. But then the moment that Tony demonstrates his competence, he moves past the aggressive, combative negotiation tactic and goes to a soft negotiation tactic, which is,
what do you suggest that is reasonable?
You're a person I can do business with. If we speak honestly with each other, we can cut through the bullshit.
Yeah.
And come up with a solution that works for both of us.
And I think if Tony's negotiating with someone he doesn't have respect for, Tony's going to push through what he wants.
Oh, yeah.
With Sosa, I think you break up an excellent point, Steve, because he understands there's got to be give and take in a negotiation with people who you see as an equal or a little bit above you, and I do think that's a great point you bring up here as well.
If he wants to make a deal, it's up to him, not you. We're going to do this one deal, that's it.
Okay, fuck you. How's that?
But Omar counters with some advice, which to me is a bit shocking, Steve. What do you think? He says,
you need to open your eyes and keep your mouth shut. That's it, let it go at that.
Don't worry about it, okay?
Wait till you get back. Your head is in the wrong place. You got to watch out for yourself. Why don't you talk to him about it? You think he wants to give you the money to spend? Huh?
Shut the fuck up, will you?
So this is interesting because Omar is upset and he's embarrassed and he hates that Tony undercut him power-wise, but he's also giving Tony a little bit of advice in this moment. He isn't just railing in on Tony. So it's a fascinating little bit of dialogue here that he gives him.
I think there's a moment when Tony is given his spiel where you watch F. Murray Abraham.
Yeah.
And the expression that I see, I don't know how you respond to it, but the expression that I see is, son of a bitch, I got to give him a little bit of respect.
Maybe. Very much so. Very much so. And that may be what prompts him to say this little piece of advice to him. Like, what does he say? You open your eyes and keep your mouth shut. Your head is in the wrong place. You got to watch out for yourself, right?
Well, if that kind of piece of advice is two things. One is it is shut the fuck up. You work for me.
Of course.
It's definitely that. But it's also there is a way that Omar came up. There was a system.
Yes, right.
And he was at the bottom of the system and he did what he was told and he kept his, mouth shut and his eyes open. And then you move up piece by piece. Tony's skipping steps, man.
Yeah. I get it. There are people who are tied to the thing of like, well, you got to do it. And listen, I've been that person on the other side. I'm sure I imagine, Steve, you've been too. It's like, there's a way to do things. You've got to do it this way to show respect to the process and to the people who are already here. But then there is another way of doing things, which is I want to show my drive and my desire. And so those things can sometimes slam together. And it doesn't help that Tony has little to no respect for Omar. So,
No, he's none. I mean, it is so, well, this is the thing.
Yeah.
Again, there's so many ways in which Tony could still be alive.
Yes.
and him pushing forward all the time is
Right.
part of why he's dead, at the end of the film.
Right. That's why I became more laid back. I didn't want to die. Before Sosa comes back to the table, and as Tony and Omar are arguing, we cut to a shot of Sosa and on the phone there next to his henchman, Shadow there. Do you think this was all a ruse, as we see later when Tony has Nick the Pig call Frank to set up Frank getting killed by Tony? Do you think this was someone who made the call, or do you think someone verified the information and now Sosa knows he's going to kill Omar?
It is such the music is so dissonant and intense. And it's that Brian De Palma unmotivated camera where the camera is going, look over here. Something is happening. But I don't actually, I mean, like the sense of it is to me is that if they already were already certain that Omar was a police plant, there's no reason to have this phone call like this.
Right. They probably would have killed him and Tony immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and why make this phone call unbelievably dramatic if nothing dramatic is happening? I think this has got to be my feeling is we suspected that there was a police plant. And now they have the confirmation. As you said, that's what my feeling is.
Yeah. So I'll take back what I said earlier that Sosa is negotiating with Omar, knowing that Omar might be or is a police plant. He just negotiated with him, might be. There is certainly he's waiting to hear if he is a police plant or not. So it's interesting.
Look, Mr. Sosa, we're getting ahead of ourselves here. I got no right. Nobody got no right to negotiate for Frank
why don't you
Lopez.
let a man finish, okay? Let him propose a proposition, and then we can talk more.
Montana, you got no authority here, okay? I started you in this fucking business, so shut the fuck
Frank is
up.
gonna love it, man. Don't worry about it.
That's up to Frank, not you!
Steve, you've been in negotiations. You know that if two people from one side are fighting each other as they're negotiating with you, that does not build confidence in that side of the negotiating table.
It ain't a sign of strength.
No.
I'll tell you that much. It's so what's so it's bad. I think both Tony and Omar are bad. I mean, Tony's following his game plan and it's going to work out for him up to a certain point.
Yeah.
But I do get that. But it's like Tony already undermined Omar and then Omar made the mistake of, going after Tony.
Yeah.
Like this is amateur hour in front of Sosa as far as I'm concerned.
As soon as I get back to Miami, I'll talk to Frank personally.
Good. My associates here can escort you to my chopper. My chopper can take you to Santa Cruz. I have a jet there, can have you in Miami in 5 hours. You'll be back here tomorrow in time for lunch.
What a lovely offer. I just think, some people, you think that rich people are aloof or drug dealers or can be, mean, but like just take my transportation. That's so sweet. I'm really.
But Omar, he survived in this business this long because you haven't have an instinct for danger. You can tell that Omar is taken aback by this. He hesitates slightly and then accepts the offer because what is he going to do? Turn down this offer from this drug dealer or drug lord who wants to help him negotiate this deal?
I think Omar, it's like, oh, you're offering me a chopper? Okay, I guess I could do that. And then it's the next thing of Tony's not coming with me?
Right. Right. Steve says it. Tony tries to say goodbye to Sosa, but Sosa asks Omar to leave Tony here.
I think Frank would like to see him.
No, that's okay. You tell Frank I'm giving this guy an ice for it.
I guess so.
And Omar reluctantly agrees, smiles at Sosa, but when he turns to walk in between Mark Margolis and the other Sosa henchman, his face turns ashen with dread. So I have a feeling that he senses something is going to happen to him. And maybe he's heard about people who've taken a ride on Sosa's chopper before, so to speak. And maybe he knew that he had turned on Sosa's people and he was maybe going to get away with it. And now it looks like he might not.
To me, so I don't remember I told you, but I just rewatched The Godfather, because I just got the 4K disc.
Nice.
This to me is the Tessio moment. Like there's this moment of, can you get me out of this? You know, like, and I don't think it's like Tessio knows he's about to get killed.
So we cut to Sosa and Tony taking a walk around Sosa's compound. And this is them essentially like getting to know each other. You could play like a New York movie montage music under this as they walk around the compound.
It had to be you.
Yeah, right. Sosa now hands Tony some binoculars so he can see that Omar has been beaten pretty badly. And within minutes, Steve, after he got on that chopper, his hands are tied behind his back and a noose is around his neck on the helicopter. And after Sosa's henchman yells something in Omar's ear and points at Sosa, Omar is thrown out of the chopper and his neck snaps in midair with a dissonant tone of the music underlying the horror of this moment.
This is one of the great over-the-top, awesome, ridiculous, torturous, disturbing deaths I can think of. It is so over the top. Because, and again, I no disrespect to your mother country, but like the implication here, I mean, if you could fly around with a dude hanging from a noose from your helicopter, that's not a private murder. That is the entire mountainside can see that you just killed this guy, you know?
Right, but no one's going to fuck with Sosa. And we know that drug lords, the police were in the drug lords' pockets all the time. And even now, as we see in Mexico, the horrific things we hear about people being put in buckets of acid or barrels of acid or being hung from bridges, right? We see that in Sicario, if you watch that movie. And that's the point of these kinds of very public deaths, is to intimidate people. The point to use force as a power is to intimidate people to not dissent or not have any issues with what you're doing.
Okay, I got to ask the question. What are the odds that you think that Omar was an informant?
Yeah, this is a great question. And Frank brings it up later, right? But I think we're led to believe that he is an informant because Sosa, as you said earlier, Frank doesn't radiate capableness, right? He does to an extent, but Sosa radiates like a man who's on top of things and gets knowledge. So I would have to say the way he's presented in the movie, I do think Omar was a stool pigeon. I don't think Sosa makes many mistakes. And I think this was absolutely what happened. And because we've seen Omar be a slimy little prick, and as Tony's about to tell us, possibly set up Tony and his friend Angel Fernandez to get killed.
Is it at all possible that Tony set Omar up and he's behind that phone call that got Omar killed?
I don't think so. I think I think not even Tony would have the guts to pull that off yet. I think later Tony could have absolutely done that to Sosa, but still, henchman Tony, I don't think he has the balls to pull that off just yet.
Well, and honestly, I think if you had wanted to do that in the movie, you would have done it. You know what I mean? Like we would have had, it would be easy to show that Tony somehow set something up.
Yeah. It would add another plank into his ability to move up the chain quickly.
So how do I know you're not a chivato too, Tony?
So Tony waits a beat and then responds in that defiant Tony Montana way we've seen numerous times in the movie.
Let's get this straight now. I never fucked anybody over in my life. Didn't have it coming. You got that? All I have in this world is my balls and my word. And I don't break them for no one. Do you understand?
I mean, of course, Tony is the person who decides who deserves it.
Yeah, right.
So he is the person who decides. So he's broken the word a lot of times, but in his mind, everybody deserved it.
Right.
That piece of shit up there, I never liked him. I never trusted him. For all I know, he had me set up and had my friend Angel Fernandez killed. But that's history. I hear he's not. Do you want to go on with me? You say it. You don't? Then you make a move.
And then Tony adjusts his stance, waiting for Sosa to make a physical move at him. This is a fascinating moment. Again, we see the Tony Montana who, when he's pushed or questioned about his ethics or morality or his political situation, he has this deep offense that comes over him. And it doesn't matter who you are. He could be the president of the United States. he's going to talk to him as if they're out on the street looking at each other.
You know what it is? It's like there are boxers that have a wealth of techniques.
Yeah.
They have techniques for every situation. They're good at offense, good at defense. They got the jab, and then there are other boxers that have a great left cross.
Yeah.
And that's what they got. Tony, like Michael Corleone, he has all sorts of gears. He plays at every level. Tony doesn't have that many gears. But they are very effective.
Yes.
It's pretty much, it's like I said before, he doesn't have reverse.
Right.
He will come forward at you.
Yeah.
That's it, and a little bit of sneakiness.
I think
Not much.
I think in a lot of ways, Steve, he's like Rocky Balboa.
Yeah.
Like Paulie says, as soon as Rocky gets mad, it's game over. Like Rocky he has crisis of confidence. He has issues with low self-esteem at times in the ring. He feels like a pretender sometimes in the ring. But like once you get him mad, all bets are off. And so I think with Tony, the same thing. Once you get Tony mad, all bets are off.
Well, and it's all heart. It's a perfect example because Apollo Creed is the boxer that has all the techniques.
Yes.
He knows 1,000 things more about boxing than Rocky does. Right. But Rocky goes to the body like nobody's business.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Because Tony would hit a fucking side of beef.
Absolutely. And Tony
he would get out his little friend and he would cut that side of beef in half.
And Tony would absolutely get up before the count of 10. You would absolutely get up before the count of 10.
I think you speak from the heart, Montana. But I say to myself, this Lopez, your boss, his judgment stinks. So I think to myself, how many other mistakes has this Lopez guy made? How can I trust this organization? You tell me, Tony.
And Tony defends Frank here, Steve. He says,
Frank is smart. Can't blame him for that animal. Why don't I go back and talk to Frank? I work it out. I fix things between us.
I think you and me, we can work this thing out. We do business together a long time.
And he leaves him with this one note. Like Frank gave him all kinds of advice. Sosa gives him a warning.
Just remember, I only tell you one time. Don't fuck me, Tony.
This is a hell of a scene, Steve.
There's a lot of stuff here. There's a lot of stuff. What is happening in terms of his relationship to Frank? What is Tony thinking about his relationship to Frank?
Yeah.
And what is Sosa thinking about the future and Frank and Tony? Well, and this is really my question.
Yeah.
It's possible that Tony did not decide to actually kill Frank or go after Frank until what happens in the club later on.
Mm-hmm.
It's also possible that Tony from day one knew that he was going to take out Frank in one way or another.
I think he knew as soon as he saw Elvira that he was going to take out Frank.
That's what I think too.
Yeah. And
maybe even before that, by the way, like
maybe,
just in general.
Yeah.
Just as a joke. But when he sees Elvira, that's it.
Yeah, that's it. It's solidified. And I think this is an important thing when you look at the power dynamics. And again, the script is so amazing. And people are always trying to discount this movie as Steve has said at times, a bit overblown, a bit overdriven, a bit crazy. But I do think there are some very interesting, well-written scenes here that like preface an Oliver Stone that we're going to see in some of the scripts for JFK and Platoon and other things, and Wall Street. He writes power dynamics so well in scenes. This could be Gordon Gekko and Charlie Sheen's character in Wall Street having this conversation. Sport, don't ever try to fuck me, sport. He could totally say that to Charlie Sheen's character, And so I love that you're seeing what he's going to write later on as a screenwriter. But I also think this is an important way to solidify Tony. Tony has no fear. And the thing we love about characters in movies is when they show us things that we wish we could be, which is people without fear, even when we're in a situation with someone who could absolutely throw us out of a chopper with a noose around our necks. He's like but he's also like, look, I'm smart here. He says, don't blame him for Omar. That could have happened to anybody. We don't know who's going to turn state's evidence on who works for us. We never know. But I'm telling you, Frank is a good guy, and I'm going to work this out. And I think Tony's doing this because Tony knows he's not at Frank's level yet. So he needs to smooth this shit over so that he can move up eventually himself. I think you're right. He's got the plans to kill Frank for quite some time, but he's smart enough to understand he's got to be in a position to do it. And this negotiation needs to work out so that he can be in a position to do it. And he knows now he's made the connection with Sosa. And that could be something he will play down the road.
No, that's huge.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing too is, as you said, Tony's way of pushing is just straight back.
Yes.
All I got is my balls. You want to go right now. I mean, he's like literally ready to throw down with this guy. And I think Sosa's response not only teaches us, so as the audience, so much about the power dynamic, I think it teaches Tony something.
Yes.
Because Sosa, when Tony steps up to people, and particularly I would say in this, I will say macho world,
totally.
You got to step back. That's what someone has to do. Someone steps to you like that, you have to respond in kind.
Yeah.
Sosa doesn't respond in kind. That just washes over him. It is so, Tony stepping up to him like he's going to fight is so beneath Sosa.
Yeah.
So when Sosa delivers his warning, which is in an entirely different way.
Yeah.
It is, I am the mountain and you are an ant.
Yes.
And that is so, it's an entirely different thing. And I really do think Tony looks at Sosa with respect in a way he never looked at Frank with respect.
Do you think he ever said this to Frank when they were negotiating deals in the past? Do you think, or I guess the bigger question here is this the first time Frank is negotiating with Sosa, or have they done stuff in the past and this is Sosa wanting to increase their partnership by increasing the amount of kilos of cocaine he wants to have flowing through every month now through Frank's organization?
My suspicion, and obviously we don't know, is that Frank is one of 15 middling size Miami cocaine dealers who for Frank seems like a pretty big deal. For Sosa, not a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, I think Frank, he doesn't have what Tony has to become the big drug dealer.
Right.
And Sosa is looking for someone to step into that role.
Right.
And that's not Frank.
No, and maybe Sosa says this warning to Tony because he knows that they're going to be, if this works out, they're going to be dealing with massive amounts of numbers in terms of finances, but also cocaine and distribution and all this stuff, and taking on massive amounts of risk. So, he's basically telling him ahead of time what to be aware of. All right, we cut to Lopez Motors, which is a Mercedes-Benz dealership that looks to be in the valley to me, Steve. Frank is pissed at Tony for making a deal for $18 million and not checking with him. Frank knew and this is, I ask you this, Steve, and Frank is pacing around. This is a kind of dark room in Lopez Motors. Frank knew Tony was a hothead and a go-getter. So why did he send him with Omar, Steve?
Why would you think that the second in command going with someone would renegotiate would negotiate a $150 million deal without telling you? It's just not expected.
Well, I mean, he wanted to give him suits. He wanted to lavish him. He said, you got a guy like this on your side. You can win things. But yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe you didn't.
I mean, you get the hot movie star and you say, baby, we're signing you to the studio deal. It's a 4-picture deal. You wouldn't expect them to go out and negotiate with Steven Spielberg on your behalf. It's like, no. You were going to act for me.
You made a deal for a fucking $18 million without even checking with me? Are you crazy, Montana? Are you crazy?
Coño, Frank, take it easy.
Coño, my ass!
At 10-5 a key is puro. You can't lose money. No way. We make $75 million on this deal, Frank. $75 million. That is serious money.
This is Tony thinking big, and Frank can't handle it, in my opinion.
What the fuck is Sosa going to do when I don't come up with the first $5 million? What's he going to do? Is he going to send me a bill? He's going to send a fucking hit squad up here, that's what. There's going to be a war in the street.
Relax. Take it easy.
Which is, again, a furthering of the power of Sosa here in this negotiation, right? And it comes right after Sosa said, don't ever try to fuck me, Tony. Now Frank knows that Sosa has the capabilities to send a hit squad. I have to believe that Jack Black, who is an avid film watcher, used the way Tony says, take it easy in this moment for Nacho Libre. I just have to believe it. The way he says it throughout the movie is exactly how Tony says it in this movie. But then, Steve, as you said, Tony surprises Frank again.
You short a couple of mil, I go on the street for you. I make a couple of moves. A mil here, a mil there. You got it.
And this is so smart, Steve. And it speaks to Tony's genius. He may not be a long or short thinker, but he is a little bit of a medium thinker. Did he make the deal with Sosa knowing he was going to have to help Frank out, which puts Frank in hawk to him? Do you think this was part of what was going on in his mind, or is that giving him too much credit?
Honestly, I think he came into this room starting to play his end game.
Ready to negotiate with Frank.
No, ready to take out Frank.
Oh, I see.
Because you go to your boss and say, this line, I'm going to go, if we're short, I'm going to go on the street and make a couple of moves, $1 million here, $1 million there.
Right.
You are telling your boss that it's what, and Frank says, well, you're making moves on your own?
Yeah. Questions about making moves on his own. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's like you go up to this is not how you treat the powerful drug dealer. You don't make a deal for them. Arrogantly say, hey, when your boss is worried about something, say, don't worry, I can go handle that by making deals on my own. He is saying, I'm going rogue and I don't respect you at all at this moment.
It's funny what you said. Like, it reminded me of Fredo, right? Mike, you don't come into Las Vegas and talk to a man like Mo Green like that. Yeah. Right.
What do we hear about Echeverria, the Diaz brothers? What about them? What about Gaspar Gomez? What is he gonna do when you start moving 2,000 keys on the
Fuck
street?
Gaspar Gomez and fuck the fucking Diaz brothers. Fuck them all. I buried those cockroaches.
I bury those cockroaches has been something I've said many, many times, Steve, on my own, watching sports games sometimes. But yeah, I love these lines, man. They're amazing.
There's certain words where the way someone says them with an accent that isn't yours is always cooler, like aluminium. Aluminium is cooler than aluminum. Cockroaches is way better than a cockroach.
There's no extra A in there. There's no extra A in there. But
it's fantastic.
I do. Yeah, I love it.
But I think too, so I think...
What do you think about this explosion? What is this now Tony getting irritated with Frank that Frank would dare question him? Yeah.
I actually think it's deeper than that.
Okay.
I think this is Frank bringing up these guys because he can't control. He realized he has a guy he can't control, and he's trying to use outside forces to scare Tony because he's realizing that he can no longer scare Tony.
Oh, interesting point.
So that's the first thing. And the second thing is just like, it's just Tony's. And what's so funny is that there's a reason Tony isn't arrogant in the sense that he is really good at this.
Yeah.
Like he is a dangerous, powerful person.
Right.
But it's also, we're getting into the coke-filled, just bring it all on.
Right.
I'll take everybody on kind of attitude,
Which is always the destructive attitude. Yeah.
Maybe I made a mistake sending you down there. Maybe you and Sosa know something I don't know.
And now Tony slowly moves to stand in front of Frank, kind of like he stood in front of Sosa. And this to me is so reminiscent of a Western standoff, Steve.
I really am continually more convinced about Frank's lack of power and his awareness of his own lack of power. And now I'm going back to the relationship with Elvira and that she continually insults him and he doesn't he allows her to insult him publicly, which is really a strange thing. And now he's going, he can't tell Tony what to do. I mean, that's what this scene really is.
Yes.
I cannot tell Tony what to do. Yeah. So first I try to tell him what to do one way, that doesn't work. Then I tell him, hey, these guys are trying to kill you. Tony reacts against the cockroaches.
Yeah.
Then he goes, oh, you should be scared of Sosa.
Right.
And it's Sosa's power because I don't have the power to control you. I'm going to try to co-opt Sosa's power in order to control you.
Right.
And that's not going to work either.
Yeah, and I also think this is important if you pull out to the macro construction of the movie. Having the audience question things, I think, is important. It keeps you on edge. It keeps you wondering, is Frank right? Does he know that Sosa is this kind of person? And Tony, who's still green in the business, because remember, this is 3 to 5 months later after he first got into the business, he might not know all this stuff. So Frank, who has been giving him advice throughout the whole movie, since he appeared, is once again giving him a little bit of advice here, saying, you don't trust a guy like that.
You want me to believe Omar was a stoolie because Sosa said so? You bought that line.
Right? The line that's missing here is, you had an issue with Omar, so you believed it easily that Omar could do this. You've always had an issue.
Yeah.
Right? That would have been the line that really hit it on the nose. But then Frank kind of undercuts his position by, I think, going into paranoia, by asking him, like, maybe I made a mistake. Maybe you and Sosa know something I don't know. So essentially accusing Tony of conspiring with Sosa to backstab Frank, which he just said Sosa does.
You're calling me a liar, right? Is that what you're calling me?
Let's just say I want things to stay the way they are. For now. You stole your deal with Sosa.
That last moment of you have to end your deal.
Yes, or stall it.
Yeah,
now.
and it's like Tony has no deal.
Right.
There's no, like, Tony cannot make a deal. So he's giving power to him.
Stall it. Okay, boss.
I am the boss.
Sure, you're the boss.
Anytime you as the boss have to say, yes, I am the boss, you're not the boss.
You're no longer the boss, right?
Hey, Tony. Remember I told you when you started, the guys who last in this business are the guys who fly straight, low-key, quiet. And the guys who want it all. Chicas, champagne, flash. They don't last.
The other thing about it, it looks to me like in the middle of this scene, as it gets very tense, that Manny has his hand on his gun.
Yes. That's a great point, Steve. You're absolutely right. Because I think Manny has been here before with Tony. Whether it's a gun or a baseball bat or a broken bottle, Manny has been here with Tony at times when Tony's in this place and he's going to negotiate a deal. I love the last part of the scene because you can see the power switch. And this is Tony now becoming stronger and more powerful than Frank. And Frank's insecurities are coming through even more strongly. But it's also a warning. Frank is foreshadowing what is going to happen with Tony. So in a way, although Frank is soft and weak and all of that, you would think when you look back on what happens to Tony at the end of the movie and how it all goes down, if he had listened to Frank, as you've said numerous times, Steve, if he had just played this straight, Tony could have lived for so much more longer than he did if he had listened to the people who were trying to give him advice in these moments. We cut to a beautiful pool lined by palm trees with the ocean and the Miami skyline in the background. And we see Elvira on the bottom left side of the frame, relaxing by the pool, reading a magazine. And Tony comes bounding up the stairs in that white suit. Steve, what are your thoughts on this shot as a director? And of course, someone who set the camera and cinematographer and seen these things, like the beautiful skyline of Miami. And they're so small in the initial intro. And the camera stays here for a lot of the scene. What are your thoughts on using a far away shot instead of a little bit closer and then seeing Tony kind of come into frame?
It's so about Miami. I mean, it's just about that environment to me. And you know, this, I said it in the first episode, is like all the great cities are unique in a special way. And Miami, this kind of place, this doesn't exist. You know what I mean? It's just so perfectly Miami. I also think it's interesting. Tony, you know, they do a very good job with his costuming, that every costume he looks a little bit better and classier.
Yes.
You know, I mean, he's going to fall apart a bit too as we go along.
Right.
But this location is beautiful. Michelle Pfeiffer is obviously beautiful.
Yeah.
I also find this scene very confusing because so at this point, Tony is working entirely on his own.
Yeah,
right?
It seems like, which we find out in the conversation here.
Yeah, I find it a little like in coming into the scene, like going, I don't understand what's going on. I don't quite understand, you know, because it seems to me that if you leave your drug dealer boss to make a deal with his person that essentially cuts you out, that he and Frank would be at war or something. You know what I mean? Like the situation here feels it just doesn't feel clear to me.
But it's just like you said, it's like Tony. Tony just barrels forward. Now that I've got this empire or burgeoning empire, now I want the woman. And I'm going to go because I think Frank is soft as fuck. So I'm going to go right to his house, although I know Frank's not there because Elvira says Frank's not there. And maybe even Tony camped out in a certain area so you could see when Frank left. And now he comes bounding up. But I also think, in my personal opinion, I think the reason De Palma keeps the camera away from it is like it builds up the mystery, but also it makes us feel a little helpless. Like we can't stop what's happening here as we watch the prey calm by the water and the predator coming up the stairs.
You just missed Frank.
Only I didn't come to see Frank.
This is not the time or the place, Tony. Next time, make an appointment first.
That's okay. I got something important I want to talk to you about. So why don't we have a couple of drinks? Act normal.
He has Elvira fix drinks for them. Steve, what is he doing here? Is this like him making it clear that he is the man and she is the woman? Is this old school machismo, Latin machismo shit?
I think so. I also think it's weird. Like poolside with a bottle of scotch, some ice, and lemons and limes is a weird. Like that just seems strange, like, particularly when you're alone, because it's not like there were like several different drinks. It's just I got a bottle of scotch
Yeah,
and some
that's it.
limes in a glass. Let's pool time party. Let's go. It just seems odd to me. No disrespect. Enjoy your poolside scotch all you want. It's fine. But yeah, I think I mean the whole you know what it is, John?
Yes.
You might know this. I am not a Latino. You might also, and I don't think
But
I should be given
on TV. Yeah.
I don't, as I've given you the honorary Jew award, I don't think I'm an honorary, although I love Latinos, I love Latino food, I love those things, but the aggression, every way that Tony does things is alien to me. I mean, like the him aggressively going towards the woman of the drug dealer he just left and saying, "You're going to marry me and have my children." It's like, oh my God, you know, so what?
Yeah, you and I are. Well, I would say, you know, Jewish entertainers have been such a prevalent part of the culture and such an influential thing for me growing up. So for me, you know, it's much easier for me to be an honorary Jew than it is for you to be an honorary Latino, because we haven't quite had the same effect entertainment wise growing up during the years that we
as we said many times, there is whether it's a George Costanza or a Larry Dave, there is a Jew inside you that is part of your personality. It is very strong.
It's ironic because I so connect with Tony in a lot.
You got that too.
Yeah, I know. It's an interesting place to test.
When you have the angel and the devil on your shoulders, it's George Costanza on one side and Tony Montana on the other.
Imagine and why would I ever need therapy, right? So, so true.
You like kids?
Which catches her off guard.
Kids?
Kids, you know, little kids.
She says she does as long as there's a nurse, and then she tries to warn him to be home soon. Yeah, talk about that.
Yeah, I like kids as long as there's a nurse. There is nothing maternal about Michelle Pfeiffer's performance as this character whatsoever.
Right. But I think this is an interesting thing. Tony likes to catch her off guard. This is part of the gift of how he charms her. You know, asking about the kids, you can tell that she's like, what? It's an interesting, she would never thought kids. I mean, this lifestyle she lives, kids, you know, so it's interesting.
Okay, here's a story. I come from the gutter. I know that. I got no education, but that's okay.
And this is, to me, Steve, this is one of the most open moments Tony has in the whole movie.
Yeah, I agree.
What I got to tell you is this. I like you. I like you the first time, and later I say, she's a tiger. She belonged to me. And I want you to marry me. I want you to be the mother of my children.
It's so crazy because, again, this is Michael talking to Apollonia's father.
Yeah.
It's the same, totally straightforward. Here's, this is my plan. I am this person. This is who I am. And I would like to marry you.
Yeah.
Boom. It's so, and it's, the situations are totally different. The characters are totally different.
Right.
But it's so funny because I don't think of Tony Montana as a thoughtful, introspective character.
Right.
But he thought about this speech.
Oh, yeah.
He has been working on this speech probably since she came down in that elevator.
Oh, 100%. I think he's had these thoughts in his head ever since she came down the elevator. You're absolutely right. Absolutely right. And so here is the moment that he can lay this all out to her. And she's shocked by that. She says, me, marry you. But she doesn't say no, Steve.
No.
She says, what about Frank? What are you going to do about Frank?
Again, that's not no. She didn't say, I love Frank.
No.
It's basically she's saying, how will you get rid of Frank?
Yeah, basically kind of implying like the Frank situation. Maybe not, kill him, but how will you get rid of the Frank problem?
What are you going to do about Frank?
Frank is not going to last, okay? He finished.
And then Steve, he taps her on the back of the head with some rough attempt at a caress, and she's left really contemplating it, which it's not an accident that De Palma leaves the camera on her face thinking about this possibility.
It is this relationship that is the thing that, as I'm thinking about it, it's what we talked about actually, which is that as I'm going through this with you, the relationship is starting to make more sense.
Yeah.
To me, because mostly I found this relationship sort of off-putting, but now that I'm framing her as she wants excitement and danger and wants to be in a situation that is fraught,
Yeah.
And Frank is not delivering enough of that to her. And so she's turning to Tony.
There's elements of Casino in this. Like,
yeah, I can see that.
Right? Like Sharon Stone messing around with James Woods. Essentially, Tony is the James Woods. Not obviously fully, but he is the James Woods type person. But she could have the comfort of Frank, which is the Robert De Niro character in Casino. But she still has this attraction and danger and love for the James Woods character. And Tony, in a way, represents that because he's of lower class and he admits it straight up to her. As I said, in my head canon, she comes from a lower class herself. And so there's a connection in that. But like, she's not going to jump until she's sure that the other situation can be as secure as the situation she has with Frank. So as Tony has made his pitch to Elvira and the Frank problem is still there and Tony is growing in power, I think it's a great time to stop part 2 of our exploration of Scarface from 1983, Steve.
Of course, we'd love to hear your thoughts about Scarface. You can visit us on Facebook, do a search for the Cine-Files. It's Cine_Files on X. It's the Cine-Files podcast on Instagram. Please subscribe to the show at your favorite podcast app if you haven't already. You can also subscribe on YouTube, where we'd love to get your comments. If you haven't left a review on Apple Podcasts, we'd like that too. We are very demanding. I'm not done demanding. In fact, I'm going to demand that you also maybe become a free member of Patreon. Doesn't cost you anything, but you get some updates and some special features. Or if you want to join Patreon or Apple Podcasts, you can get ad-free versions of the show, as well as our Cine-Files shorts, which we're about to record another one as soon as we end this episode. And if you want to buy or stream Scarface along with every other film we've ever reviewed, it's at cinephiles.net. And I'm at SR Morris on Twitter and SR Morris1 on Instagram.
And as for me, you can follow me at The Rocha Says on all the social media channels. And if you'd like to hear more about the stuff I talk about in the world of entertainment with a bunch of great co-hosts and Steve occasionally popping by on the channel, you can head over to the John Rocha channel, youtube.com/John Rocha Says. We'd love to have you aboard.
And I think that's it for this week. We'll be back next time to continue our exploration of Brian De Palma's Scarface on the Cine-Files.